and a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Happy to be here with you, hanging out where sports truly meets that thing called life. Appreciate your patience here this morning as we got set and ready to go here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And we are, of course, here with you up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, and the West Coast, and all around the world here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So however you're tuning in, thank you so much for being a part of the show here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We have an awesome broadcast set up here for you today. I am ecstatic about the opportunity that we have to share with you all of these conversations that I've gotten to have this week and coming into this. So inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', I'm going to start off today's broadcast in game week with the Stanford Cardinal making history, coming across country to Syracuse University to face off against the Syracuse Orange in the Dome. It is the first ever ACC matchup with Stanford as a member of the ACC. That's right, Stanford's on the Pacific Coast, and they're inside of the Atlantic Coast Conference. Welcome to, to put in, that's, in a nutshell, that is where we are at right now when it comes to the world of realignment. Pacific Coast teams in a conference that says Atlantic Coast. The Big 12 has 16. The Big 10 has 18. I said that the Big 10 can easily not have to rebrand that much, just add one letter to their conference and call it the Big Tent instead of the Big 10. So, Stanford coming into town, and they're going to face off against Syracuse in what Fran Brown is calling the Battle of the Block S. And you're going to hear my one-on-one extensive conversation with their starting quarterback, Ashton Daniels. You don't want to miss a moment of that. That's coming up first today. And then you see that Stanford logo, and that is for the fact that I will be airing my Q&As with head coach Troy Taylor. I had an extensive conversation with him going into the season in my ACC preview around the country with the members inside of the football conference of the ACC. So you will hear my most recent Q&A with Troy Taylor and what he had to say, the head coach of the Stanford Cardinal. You'll also hear from quarterback Justin Lamson, who used to be at Syracuse, and you will hear from safety Mitch Leigber. And then after that, around 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be joined with Papa Joe for the rest of the way. Papa Joe is going to be joining us to speak with us on Major League Baseball. Under 15 games to play in the regular season, how quickly that's crept up on all of us, that we are only a few games from deciding how things are going to shake out here. Some divisions have been decided, and some will come down to the wire. So excited for that, including the wild card, and we'll also get into our College Football Week 3 recap, our College Football Week 4 picks, our NFL Week 2 recap, and our NFL Week 3 picks. So a ton of stuff coming up. Take a quick step aside. When we come back, my conversation airs with the man who's throwing that ball through the air, Ashton Daniels, Stanford Cardinal, right after this.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the Whole Frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpazpopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpazpopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Proud to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And you can listen anywhere in the world and watch anywhere in the world on the same channels. Doesn't matter where you are, East Coast and on the West Coast, like Ashton Daniels is from Stanford. You can find us on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com, which is internet streaming radio. And after the shows go live, you can find us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. I want to thank my Californians for watching and listening to Wake Up Call. I know that there's been people over the years, even before this moment, and we're building that bridge with the Stanford Cardinal. I've had the opportunity to speak with staff member Corey Etzel, as well as head coach Troy Taylor, and now I am on the phone here with Mr. Ashton Daniels. Ashton, how are we doing today?
Doing great. Just, blessed to have another day on this earth.
Yeah, man, you talk about being blessed to have another day on this earth, starting off the show, music to my ears. How important is it to remember your blessings and to have the faith that you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's the most important thing to me, obviously. I think, that always comes number first, and then that always comes number one, and family comes second. It's been something that my parents have instilled in me since day one, is to, just be so thankful for the blessings that we have. Being at such an amazing university, obviously, the gig that you have is amazing. God continues to bless us with these amazing things every single day. So, just being able to be thankful for that and kind of being where your feet are every single day is really important to me.
Yeah. I could not agree more, and it is a blessing. I tell people I do what I love, and I love what I do. It sounds like you do the same. So, a good thing to have. I want to go back to Kid Ashton. I want to go, like, when you fell in love with football for the first time. I want to go all the way back. What was it? Bring me into the moment that you said, man, I love this thing, but I love this thing so much that I want to make this a job of mine. I want to make this something that I get to do all the time.
Yeah, obviously, I started playing at a pretty young age. I want to say I was 5 years old when I first started playing football. My dad played football at the University of Georgia. So, he was a wide receiver there, and just, looking at all his, old stuff, his old helmets, watching his old film, all that kind of stuff. I've always just grown up around football. I've always grown up around the sport. And then being in the community that I was in when I was a young kid, which was, the Buford community. Football is just so, heavily looked into there. It's heavily followed. Everyone supports the football team, no matter what age group you're playing in. So, just having that support from not only my dad but the community that I grew up in, just it just made me fall in love with the game. I don't really know a specific age where I decided, hey, that I want to make this my job one day. But, I've always just had such an amazing love for football that I think will never go away. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
Yeah, I love that. You came from Georgia and you ended up over at Stanford. How, why, what was the thing about Stanford that really called out to you? And hindsight 2020, would you choose them again?
Yeah. So I want to say for me, it was, kind of going through the whole recruiting process. I don't think too many people necessarily know this about me, but I was very, very, overlooked as a recruit in high school. I didn't have too many offers, and I don't know, necessarily what it was, but that's just sometimes how it works. And so our old coaching staff, Coach Pritchard and Coach Shaw, they reached out to me during my sophomore lacrosse season, actually my junior lacrosse season, and as soon as I heard from them, I knew that I couldn't give up the chance of having a Stanford degree and just being in the Stanford program alone. All the legends that they have in this program, Andrew Luck, Christian McCaffrey, Jim Plunkett, all these outstanding guys. I knew that, I wanted my legacy to hopefully one day stand where theirs is. And, I made that decision as soon as they offered me. I knew that, it was the right place to be. And if I had to do it over again 100 times, I would still pick Stanford. So, I was just blessed with the opportunity of, being offered by that old staff. And, I thank them so much for giving me a chance because, I didn't have too many chances. So, I knew that because I didn't have so many chances that I would have to take it and run with it. And I think that's what I've been doing so far.
Yeah, and you mentioned David Shaw. He was the head coach of the Stanford Cardinal for 12 seasons. He was the one that was obviously the coach when you made the decision to go there before Troy Taylor came in 2023. What was it about Coach Shaw that you liked that really spoke to you? And then secondly, why did you stay with Coach Taylor?
Yeah, I think, with Coach Shaw, I think that everyone kind of knew that he just had the plan. He had the formula for college football at that time. And, he'd obviously shown so much success, with his old players, Andrew Luck, like I said, all these outstanding guys, even Tanner McKee, who was the starting quarterback when I got here my freshman year, who's with the Eagles now. He's just shown so much development in his players. And he was, he was a family guy. He looked out for his players more than he did, in their real life rather than on the field. He was just one of those guys that, you want on your side at all times. He's a great coach. He's going to stand up for you. He's going to look out for you, while also developing you on and off the field. So that was the big thing with me for Coach Shaw. And then with Coach Taylor, the first day that he walked in, I knew that I was going to stay in there and give him a chance because, first off, this is just a place where you can't leave just because, coach is gone. Stanford is just so, traditionally and culturally rich in everything that goes about being at Stanford. The academics, just the people you continue to surround yourself with here. So, that just wasn't something I was ready to give up that easily. So I knew that I was going to, stick in here, play at least one season with Coach Taylor and see how it went. And, I fell in love with his plan. I fell in love with his offense. And I think we have a really good thing going here.
Yeah, we see how the team has started off the season. Some West Coast football in week number 1. You hosted TCU, the Horned Frogs of the Big 12. And, dude, I got to tell you, man, I was watching. I was right there with y'all, and I was like, Stanford's got a shot. They can do this thing. I mean, it was a
Yes,
one.
sir.
It was a one score. It was 34-27. Like, bring me into it because y'all were so close in this game. and it was like back and forth. I know that one got away, and I know you got Cal Poly after, but bring me into that TCU game, because I was paying attention, and I was like, all right, I don't think people are giving Stanford enough credit in this game, and you hung tough with TCU.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we showed our potential in that game. Our defense came out, played lights out, and then offense was able to go out and put some points up on the board, but obviously we didn't execute to the level that we wanted to. And I think when we do execute at the level we want to and we do it consistently, I think that we can beat anyone in the country, which I know is might be a tall tale, but you look at the things we did last year, Colorado, coming back down 29 points, Washington almost upsetting them last year, which was somewhat of the same case. We just couldn't execute consistently during those games. And, I think for TCU, it was a great way to open up the season. Although it was a loss, I think, the guys learned a lot from that game. I think our coaches also learned a lot from that game. And we had a big, bounce back win against Cal Poly. But, I think the guys were just finally ready to go out there, hit somebody else, and get the season going. And I think we did, but we had a lot of things to learn from that game.
Yeah, here with Ashton Daniels, quarterback of the Stanford Cardinal, on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and our overall coverage of the ACC of over a decade. You're in the ACC. I can tell you, when I turned on that game against TCU, it was very weird to see the ACC logo on the Stanford field. So is it weird for you to be a part of the Atlantic Coast Conference when you're a Pacific Coast team? I mean, how do you kind of work with this? Because you came to Stanford playing the Washingtons and the Oregons and the USCs and the UCLAs. Now they're in the Big Ten. You're in the ACC. How has realignment been for you? I know it's early on, but I mean, for goodness sakes, your first conference game is going to be across the country, over 2,000 miles away in Syracuse, New York.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Definitely, growing up on the East Coast, the two main conferences I always followed were the SEC and the ACC. So, knowing the ACC kind of in and out, and now hearing that Cal, us, and SMU are in the ACC is a little bit weird. You would have never really thought that would have happened, but it did, and that's the reality of it now. I think people just have to adjust. We just have to adjust to it and be ready to go. Obviously, it was fun playing in the Pac-12, playing so many great teams, but now we have the ability to face some new opponents, some new challenges, some really good teams, some teams that we really look forward to playing. And we're thankful that Bernard Muir, who is our athletic director, found us a home, because at one point we didn't necessarily know where we were going to go, and it was a little nerve-wracking, but at the end of the day, Bernard found us our place. We couldn't be happier for it, especially me and a lot of the East Coast guys on the team, because we get to go back home, play on the East Coast, in those amazing atmospheres, also while being able, to bring a lot of our friends and families out to the game.
What are your thoughts on Syracuse? We know that they have a transfer quarterback, Kyle McCord. They're 2-0. They've played one ACC game so far at home against Georgia Tech. They won. You guys have had a week off. They've had a week off. You both will be going in fresh into this third week of college football. What's your take on Syracuse?
Yeah, I think Syracuse is a great team. We watched them. I personally watched them play against Georgia Tech because I have a lot of friends on that Georgia Tech team, just being from Georgia. So I was watching that game pretty close, and they're an amazing team. Kyle's a great quarterback. Love what he's been able to do. It's hard when you hit the transfer portal from such an amazing team, and you go to another team. Everyone's kind of got their eyes on you, and I think that he's handled that situation very well. I think that he's done great things. I think their head coach also is great. Being also a Georgia guy, being at the University of Georgia, and then being able to go up there and do the things that he's done in the first 2 weeks. I have a lot of respect for them and that team. They're big, strong, fast, and they're an exciting team to watch. And I think it's going to be really exciting for us to be able to go up there. Also, the Carrier Dome. I'm a big lacrosse player. I always was, so I've always been a fan of Syracuse lacrosse and watching games in the Carrier Dome, which is now the JMA Dome, I believe. Is
Yeah.
that what it's called?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So, I've always, watched their lacrosse games in that dome. Seen a lot of cool stuff happening there. So being able to go into that dome and play in that and that kind of environment for the first time is going to be amazing. And I know all the guys are really excited.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be an awesome event, an awesome piece here. I made a statement about the Pac-12. I've made the statement consistently over the last over all of the span of time of the Pac-12 allegedly being dead. I said my mom used to tell me when I came home from school, she would say you can either watch General Hospital or watch nothing. So I got used to watching soap opera, and in a soap opera, if you don't see something die, it's not dead. And even if you see it die, it still may not be dead. And I kept telling people, Pac-12 name's still out there, the Pac-12 logo's still out there. And then late last night, a few nights ago, the Pac comes out with this thing that they're rebuilding, they're doing this. I've talked to the West Coast teams. I've spoken to Cal as well about how I think this move to the ACC was just a Band-Aid. It was like, hey, let's do something for now. It helps us. It gives us a home, gives the ACC a home, but at the same time, it's temporary. I know you got to play the games in front of you, Ashton, but seeing the Pac-12 put a new band together, do you feel like maybe you could be a Pac-12 quarterback, an ACC quarterback, and then a Pac-12 quarterback again?
That would be crazy. It really would be. I haven't really seen, a team. I guess, I didn't really grow up in an era where there was so much, going on and realignment and all that, but now obviously I'm in it. So, everything is new to me. I think everything is new to a lot of people. So, obviously you never know what could happen. As you can see what happened with the Pac-12, you never really know what can happen. So, I think it's great that they're giving those smaller programs, the chance to be in the Pac-12 and kind of grow their program, grow their name, all that kind of stuff. I think that's amazing. Giving all those teams a chance, and who knows if we end up back in the Pac-12, then we're back in the Pac-12, and I guess I'll have to be another Pac-12 quarterback again. But yeah, you never know with the way that the college football world is trending right now. So yeah, just got to keep your eyes open for it, and we'll see.
Before I let you go, your backup quarterback is Justin Lamson. Another prediction that I had made when Justin came over and I talked to him during his recruitment. I said, okay, here's a California kid coming across the country. He comes to Syracuse, and I said, if he doesn't get to play within the first couple of years, I believe he's going to leave and go back to the West Coast. Well, a couple of years went by. He left and went back to the West Coast. He ends up at Stanford. He's played a little bit in these first couple games, got some action out there. You have that connection to Syracuse's program and Justin Lamson. You have the connection to the Northeast with your family. You also have the connection to the Northeast with one of the coaches on your staff, Corey Etzel. So what's your take on kind of that uniqueness of how small the sports world is and that your backup quarterback was once a member of the Syracuse Orange?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It really is a small world, having, so many ties to Syracuse and all this stuff is, I'd never really thought about it until you just said that, which is crazy. But, having Justin in our quarterback room has just been a blessing. He's such an awesome guy. It's going on year 2 for us now. So, he's starting to open up more. We're getting really, really close as a quarterback room. We're having a lot of fun. And obviously, we have his insights for when we play ACC opponents, also for when we play Syracuse as well. So, he's been amazing for us. Love that guy to death. And then, for Coach Edsel too, playing at Syracuse, he also has that alumni, a little bit of insight, how loud is it going to be in the dome? All these small things that we can put together that's going to help us, go out on this long trip and do the best that we can against Syracuse. But yeah, it's just been a blessing. Everyone on our staff, that has those ties. Obviously, we're thankful and grateful for that to make our jobs a little bit easier as well.
And a final note from Ashton Daniels. Ashton, what should we know as you're the starting quarterback and a leader on this Stanford team? What should the world know about the Stanford Cardinal this season?
I think that they should just know we're as hungry as ever. Obviously coming off to back-to-back 3-9 seasons, is I think a lot of guys took that to heart. A lot of guys were pretty upset about that, and Coach Taylor, we think it has given us the formula, to be great. We know how great we can be under him, under him running our program. And I think the guys, continue to see that every single day. I think we're building chemistry. I think we're building confidence in one another. Obviously it's only year two under his, coaching, but I think that we can still do a lot this year. We've only lost one game. We've also won one game. Like, we're 2 games into the season. We still have a lot to prove. But I think we shock a lot of teams this year. I think we shock a lot of people, and I think we're going to be a really, really good team, here coming up pretty soon.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Proud to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You just heard from the quarterback of the Stanford Cardinal, Ashton Daniels, and coming up after that, right now, we have more Stanford for you. It's game week, the Battle of the Block S, as Fran calls it. The Red S for Stanford coming to visit the Orange S of Syracuse, and I had the opportunity to speak once again with the head coach of the Stanford Cardinal, and this is what Troy Taylor had to say when I had the opportunity to speak with him. Dan Tortora, Wake Up Call, DT.com. Good to see you again, Coach.
And you.
To just kind of give some thoughts on Fran Brown, the work that he's done. He's a first-time head coach, but he was part of the staff that won 2 championships nationally at Georgia. Just your take on Fran.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a good history of being around winning programs, and he's done a great job there. I think they've They a splash in recruiting and brought in some good players. I mean, if you look at what their team is 2-0, they're a physical group. They're explosive on offense. I mean, in that short time that they've been there, he and his staff have done a great job of putting together a really good football team.
I had the opportunity of speaking with your quarterback, Ashton Daniels, and he obviously came in before you got there, but saw what you were about and decided that he needed to stay and said a lot of positives about that decision. Just what you can say about Ashton and what he's done and the appreciation that he did give you an opportunity to see what you're going to do leadership wise.
Yeah, Ashton is a tremendous person, first and foremost. Just a great kid, an incredible competitor, really tough, and obviously really talented. And I think he just continues to get better. And so much a quarterback is experience and kind of knowing what to expect. And he's just continues to grow in that area. He's a dynamic runner. He's a physical runner. And he gives us a chance. He's one of our biggest, fastest guys on our team. So just really athletic and talented guy. And I'm sure glad he stuck around to stay with us.
Coach, you had mentioned your appreciation of the ACC giving you a home. Just what you can say about, I mean, this is a historic moment, this first game ever for Stanford inside of the conference. Just your thoughts on the conference from the outside looking in prior to, and what your thoughts are now knowing that this is going to be a moment that will live forever for Stanford.
Yeah, I would say, being somebody that obviously loves college football and followed those teams from afar my entire life, so very familiar with the history of those schools and the conference, and now being a part of it. Like I said, gratitude's the probably the biggest word that comes to mind, and then also a respect for what teams are doing, in our conference. You see the parity of teams going against each other. I think it's a league that is very deep. There's really good coaching and talented players, and then there's tough venues. We're playing in one on Friday that's hard to go into those places because they have a significant home field advantage in terms of their crowds and their noise and all those things. So gratitude and respect, I would say.
That coming from the head coach of the Stanford Cardinal, Troy Taylor. And speaking on how dynamic Ashton Daniels is, the fact that Ashton was there from the prior coaching staff, had committed to Stanford, and when Troy came in, decided to stay and decided to be there with the team. And we have seen the fact, he's coming into this game as a running quarterback as well as a quarterback that can get the ball down the yard. So, looking at that and looking at the fact that Justin Lamson has been brought in last season and this season for rushing opportunities for the quarterback position, a wildcat-esque. Is he going to throw? Is he going to run? He has a touchdown in both of the first two games of the season for Stanford, one being a close game at home that they end up losing by one possession. He had a touchdown in that game rushing, speaking of Justin Lamson. And in the blowout win at home over Cal Poly, he had a rushing touchdown. And he also, before doing all this for Stanford, he was a quarterback for the Syracuse Orange. And I was talking to him through his recruitment when he was out in California. This is what Justin had to say when we got to speak again.
Justin, good to talk with you. It's been a long time since your recruitment, your road there, but happy to have you back here again. Just to bring me into the thoughts and the emotions that may be going through you as you step back into the Dome. Like you said, you never thought you would be there again. And then ultimately what the message was from Troy Taylor that made you believe that going back to the West Coast and becoming a Cardinal football player was the right move.
Yeah, obviously coming to Stanford, it was kind of an easy choice. Like going through my recruitment, I had a couple other schools that I was interested in, but just being close to home, about 2 hours away from home, and just the education that Stanford provides, it's kind of a no-brainer for me, and be able to get coached by the coaching staff here, that was kind of a no-brainer. And going back to the Dome, I'm super excited about it. I know 7 of the 11 starters on defense, so kind of being able to know who I'm going against is something that I'm super excited about, and just kind of like a homecoming kind of game for me. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Nathan?
Hey, Justin, Nathan California.
Justin, for you, what ultimately, when you go back on that, to make that decision, how bittersweet was it for you to leave Syracuse? Like you said, it's another home to you. And what did Syracuse fans never get to see as far as the quarterback that you are?
Yeah, I think they didn't get to see a guy that was ready to play in a competitive way. I obviously had that injury when I thought I was going to be ready to play, and just things didn't go the way I wanted them to go. So, I'm excited to go back there and show them what I can do when I get my opportunity. And yeah, um, it was a great time there.
And I will say the butter cake's good at Francesca's, but Brian's Landing, which is right down the road from the Dome, that's good too.
Yep.
And that came from in the Q&A because we were on a Zoom call, and thanks to the Stanford Cardinal athletic department for allowing me the opportunity to be on it with the rest of the media, that we had a chance to speak with student athletes as well as head coach Troy Taylor, and that's where you're getting that footage from. So thanks for the Stanford Cardinal for sharing that. And Justin Lamson had said earlier, he was talking about the food because some of the media was asking him about it that doesn't know Syracuse. And he mentioned the butter cake from Francesca's, and I wanted to make sure I gave a shout out to one of my favorite desserts ever in the history of my 38 plus years on this God's green earth, which is the butter cake. I had never had butter cake before, and I have yet to have it from Francesca's, but I've had it from Brian's Landing, and I typically don't order dessert. I have gotten it with my dad. I've gotten it with my mom. I've gotten it with friends. I was like, every time I go now, I'm like, man, if I'm going there for dinner, I'm getting the butter cake. So I just wanted to let the world know and let both coasts know across this country that if you're going to come to Syracuse and to the media trying to find a spot, Brian's Landing's not too far away from the Dome in that area out in Jamesville, and is absolutely worth getting the butter cake. So happy I got to say that to Justin Lamson from coast to coast. And we're going to go into my conversation with Mitch Leigber, the safety that I had the opportunity to speak with on the defensive side of the ball. Mitch Leigber, this is what he had to say going into the matchup with Syracuse, the Battle of the Block Ass, as Fran calls it, that's happening this Friday night at 7:30 p.m.
Mitch, to look at Syracuse's offense, they have so many different weapons in the backfield. They're multiple. LaQuinn Allen Jr., 1,000-yard back, and then also their receivers. What can you say about what you've seen on film from the different pieces of talent that Kyle McCord has to throw to as well as hand the ball off to?
Yeah, they have a lot of great players. They have explosive offense, like I said, a lot of great weapons that he can throw to, and their running back's a very explosive player as well. He's fast, quick. So yeah, Kyle McCord definitely has a lot of weapons to utilize on his offense. But I think we're ready to get after it and shut down their offense.
And Mitch, you spoke about being ready for that. These first couple games that you've had, what can you say about what you've learned as a team about each other, having a tough game in that first week and then being able to bounce back and get a victory? What have your teammates shown you as you step forward? Like you said, you believe you're ready. Why is that?
Yeah, I think we just believe in each other and trust in each other. Like I said before, that's what it comes down to a lot of the time, is just having trust in everyone else on the field that they're going to do their 111th, and just going out there and executing. That's what we've been preaching. Like I said before, having trust in the scheme, having trust in the coaches, and having trust in your brothers next to you is if you're able to execute that, the wins will start coming.
Thank you, Mitch.
That coming from Mitch Leigber, safety on the Stanford Cardinal. The game is this Friday night. It is at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the Dome, Friday, September 20th. I look forward to seeing you all out there. Shout out to Alan, who's coming up from Boca Raton and going to the game. So much love and safe travels to everybody coming out from the West Coast and all over the country to see this historical moment where Stanford will play its first ever game as a member of the Atlantic Coast Conference, and that game is against Syracuse, and that game features two former Syracuse quarterbacks coming back to the Dome. Corey Etzel, who's the offensive quality control analyst and working with the tight ends, who you heard from this week on the show. He's coming back. He was a quarterback under Doug Marrone. Justin Lamson was a quarterback under Dino Babers, is a West Coast kid from California. As he told you, Stanford just a couple hours away from his home, came to Syracuse. I talked to him through his recruitment, committed to Syracuse, and then decided to go back to the West Coast and go to Stanford. This is his first time back since leaving. So two former quarterbacks coming back into the Dome. Really, really cool moment. Very excited for it. Have a lot of respect for head coach Troy Taylor and the way he goes about his business, as well as very much appreciate the fact that I had the opportunity to speak with safety Mitch Leigber and quarterbacks Ashton Daniels and Justin Lamson. And it's good to talk to Justin again, because I would like to think we started to build a friendship all those years ago, and I hope that that continues and only grows. So a lot of great stuff. We're going to take a step aside. Papa Joe's up next. We're getting you ready for game week. So Tortora and Alfred had a broadcast last night right here in the Wake Up Call studios. Isaac Alfred and I broke down the game, talked about a lot of different things, had laughs as we always do, gave you a score and went through the depth chart and told you who we thought were going to be the offensive and defensive catalysts to this game for the Battle of the Block S. You can watch that on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /Wake Up Call DT, where you are right now. You can also go and listen to it on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. And of course, these conversations that you saw today, they are going to re-air on Facebook as well as on YouTube, and you're going to be able to go directly to my conversation with safety Mitch Leigber, directly to quarterback Justin Lamson, directly to head coach Troy Taylor, and my extensive conversation one-on-one with Ashton Daniels as well. So all of that, and you'll also be able to go back and watch my conversation with Corey Etzel, the offensive quality control analyst, and working there with the tight end specifically with Stanford. So plenty of stuff in this, and you can see my one-on-one conversation with associate head coach for the offense and quarterbacks coach Nunzio Campanelli. You will see my Q&A with quarterback Kyle McCord, and you'll see my extensive conversation for the first time ever with running back, true freshman Malachi James, and if he thinks he's faster than the Flash. So, and you'll also see my Q&A with head coach of the Syracuse Orange, Fran Brown. So your Syracuse game week is more than taken care of here on the show, hearing from both head coaches, hearing from student athletes, and Tortora and Alfred bringing you through a full pregame show. Of course, we're going to be at the Dome by the grace of God, and we do our postgame outside of the Dome, and be talking with Fran Brown and student athletes after. So a lot of great stuff coming up where sports meets life in this game week. I'm super excited knowing people on both sides of this matchup, and having a lot of respect for Stanford and the caliber of human being that they have coming in, and of course respect for my hometown and what Fran is working to do here. So a lot of great stuff leading into Friday night and leading into Major League Baseball being less than 15 games to go, and college football picks as well as the NFL picks. Papa Joe's going to be joining us right after this, where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Stay with us.
Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Bryan and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Bryan and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here is a special message from Brian Bruno, owner of Servomation Refreshments Incorporated.
I grew up in the family business. I had the experience of working for a national food service company with thousands of employees. And as much as I enjoyed the experience I had, there's something about, owning my own company and being able to change the things I saw wrong with the industry firsthand, which is why I moved back to my hometown in Canastota, New York to launch Servomation. It was back in 2007. When we first started the business in 2007, really you didn't find any machines with credit card readers. There's a lack of variety in machines. You got stuck with basically whatever the vending company wanted to sell that day. There's a lot of inefficiencies in the business, and those were all things that we saw as opportunities, both from a customer level to improve and from an operating level to be more efficient. We've really been at the forefront of introducing retail technology into our space. We were doing self-checkout back in 2009 before it really became a national phenomenon. The whole point of it isn't to just improve the customer experience. It's to make it feel more like a retail environment where people don't have to be afraid of what they're buying behind glass. They don't have to be afraid of not being able to see the ingredients of the packages. It was an easy transaction from that standpoint. If we were to reinvent something, we wanted to make sure what we were making looked and felt more like a deli and not like something that you would traditionally see in a vending machine. I was tired of hearing for years the customers say the wheel of death because the vending machine would circle around with the same tuna salad in it. What we wanted to do was it really changed the perception of that food. So allowing customers to touch it, allowing customers to feel the weight of it, allowing customers to see the freshness of it, and also the variety of it really helps them change the perception and ultimately the value of what we bring to them. The point of differentiation you have to make is either in value or the quality. And I think on both of those fronts, Servomation has really, in large part, changed that value system for employees. So they no longer have to worry about bringing their food from home or having to leave their desk during the day and rush out to get back in time for their break to end. We're bringing something that they can count on in their break room every day, and they know it's going to be there, they know it's going to be fresh, and they don't have to worry about it being sold out or something that they don't enjoy. We've also heavily invested in flavored water machines, so you can get a glass of water with a fresh piece of fruit in it, along with bean to cup coffee machines. So there's not a day that goes by we're not surprised when we get customers that call us and say, we didn't know you could do all this. We're really lucky to have a strong group of dedicated employees. Most of our employees have been with us since inception. They're family to us, and people like doing business with people they like and trust. And I think the same thing goes for employees. In a day and an age where there's a lot of corporations that just look at an employee as a number and don't get to know them, that's just not the way I was raised or how I like to do business. So we're a little old-fashioned. We like getting close to our employees. We like knowing how we can help them. We like knowing how we can improve their lives, adjust their schedules, whatever it may be to help improve their quality of life. And we think in the end that makes for a happier employee. We're fortunate enough to have really grown over the last several years, and from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to Connecticut, we really do have a strong connection, even though we're not in the rooms every day with these employees. There's not one single employee that we feel like we don't know, and certainly we know they can call us at any time, and they're definitely treated as family to us. I wake up every single day really excited to surprise our customers in a good way. The one thing I can tell you is I think that every one of our employees and every one of our customers will continue to be at the forefront of every decision we make.
Find out how Servomation can help you and your business by going to servomation.com.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. I'm honored and privileged to be hanging out with you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and I cannot thank you enough for your support over the years here with all of the things that we've done. We're on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com all around the world. And of course, thanks to the wonderful people at Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube, and more. We're able to get to you wherever you are, and it's free. And I love being able to create access for you to listen to the show and be a part of it. And now with CarPlay in so many cars, whether you have an Android phone or an Apple phone, that you can just get in your car and either wirelessly be connected or to physically connect it then you get us right there on your radio. I mean, once you plug in and the CarPlay shows up and you click on any one of these, Spotify, for example, and you type in Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, you're listening to me through your car just like how I started, which was traditional radio. So I can't be thankful enough for the technology. I can't be thankful enough for the opportunity. And above all things, I'm thankful to God who creates it all. So with that being said, I am more than honored and privileged, speaking about being grateful to God, to have the opportunity to speak with someone who I consider another dad and somebody who is just an awesome person in my life. He challenges me every single day to be a better version of myself, whether he knows it or not. He is one of the strongest people that I know, and he is side by side with one of the other strongest people that I know. And, you know, Mary and PJ, they are the type of people that you can feel their love when you're thousands of miles away. And their support and everything that they bring to it. This world sometimes feels cold. It sometimes doesn't feel genuine. It sometimes feels like people are just looking to see what they can get from you. And when you go and you talk with Mary and Joe on the phone, when you go and see them and you spend time with them, you're reminded that God still exists. God is alive and well. You're reminded that people do love you genuinely. They don't want anything from you except for your time and just to be there. And it's those elements of family that keep you strong in storms, and they keep you grateful. So with that being said, I could never say enough words about Papa Joe, MT, and my big brother Joey, and I very graciously welcome Papa Joe back to the show. PJ, how we doing?
Good morning, Daniel. Beautiful day in paradise down here.
That's right. So, PJ, we got a lot of stuff to get to. Papa Joe, there is less than 15 regular season games to go per team on average. Some teams have 11, some teams maybe have 13 games left to go. There's not a lot of games. We are edging closer and closer. We're deciding divisional champions. The wild card's becoming more and more clear. It may come down to the wire for some. Others, they may be in good shape and they may just have to finish off strong. Some can sit players. Some have to start and play everybody. Bring me into Major League Baseball and bring us around the league as you so eloquently do every single week, because we are beyond crunch time. We are now in the 11th hour of baseball.
Oh, true. Next week I'm going to have a good show with all the possibilities that can happen and the players that lead the teams going into these playoffs.
Yeah.
Because with short series, you have to rely on the ones that have carried you. Let's go to the American League. We got the Yankees at 89 and 63. Baltimore has fumbled the ball. They're leaking oil, Daniel. They're 5 games behind. Boston's 13 behind and out of it. Tell you what happened last week. New York was 7-3 in their last 10 games, and Baltimore was 2-8. Ouch. That goes Baltimore. Now they got a 3-game series coming up, but I don't think it's going to make any difference because I think that with 10 games left, I think the Yankees are going to make the playoffs no matter what. But I'm sure they want to win a division. Now we got the other division in Cleveland, which is just as good. The Central Division, Cleveland's at 88-65. KC is 6 back. Minnesota's 7.5 back. And Detroit lately has nudged its way into this conversation.
Yeah.
They're 8 games back. Now, Minnesota's leaking some oil. So we got Cleveland, the last 10 games were 7-3. They're in. Perfect. KC was 4-6, Minnesota 4-6, and Detroit was 8-2. So they jumped up at least 2 or 3 games from KC and Minnesota and put themselves right in the talk. I don't think they'll make it, but they got a 36% chance to do it. Minnesota's at 72%. So something's going to happen there. Something's going to happen. Average-wise, we got Bobby Wick from Kansas City's hitting .331. Aaron Judge is hitting .321. Home runs, Judge has got this wrapped up at 53. RBI, Judge is way ahead at 136. Now, you've heard me talk about the Most Valuable Player Award and the Triple Crown Award, which means that a player has to lead the league in average, home runs, and RBIs. Aaron Judge is very, very close to doing that. Bobby Witt doesn't seem like he's going to back up at all. He's a real good hitter, and he's the one that's leading KC. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if they're playing each other. I forgot to look into that. But wins, Seth Lugo's got 16 from KC. Eric Skubal from Detroit has 17. And I've been talking about Skubal the last month because he keeps putting up good numbers. And now we know why, because Detroit is creeping up and maybe in a chance to do it. ERA, Ronald Blanco was 2.88, and Framber Valdez at 2.85. They're both from Houston. Saves leader is Emmanuel Clace. Now, I'll tell you, you've heard me talk about him. He is by far the best in the American League and has been for most of the year. No one's come close to him. He's got 45 saves. Why is that important? It's important because Class has pitched 70 innings and has a .64 ERA. Think about that, folks. .64. That's a little bit more than a half a run for 9 innings. His record is 5-2. Now, I'm going to give you something a record had to run. I got Ohtani. Ohtani is probably the MVP, and he's not a player, but he's the best there is. What can I say? Judge is Ohtani's MVP for the National League, but Judge will certainly win it for the American League. Now, there's a good chance that maybe Chris Sale from the National League could be an MVP and a Cy Young Award. And I'll get to them when I get to the National League. Tarek Skubal, Detroit. Cy Young Award winner? Maybe. Seth Lugo? Maybe. Emmanuel Clace? Reliever? Unlikely, but maybe. Very rarely do relievers get the Cy Young Award. Think about that for a little. I'll go to the National League. At Philly at 91-61. The Mets, unbelievable, the Mets have climbed from the bottom of the depths of despair and are hitting second in their division at 84-68. Atlanta is 82-70. This is a horse race. This is serious. The Mets are 7 games behind Philly, and Atlanta's 9 games behind. Atlanta has simply dropped out of the bottom. Yeah. Talk about leaking oil. They dropped their whole engine. The Mets are 71% chance of getting in, 77% chance of getting in. Atlanta has dropped down to 52%. Unbelievable. I was chastising New York 2 months ago because they weren't playing up to their potential. Yeah. And even Francisco Lindor is hurt, and he was an MVP character. He's not playing. So Pete Alonso and his boys are starting to slug the ball, and they've crept close to Philly. What they've done is they've crept close to a wild card position. The Subs division, we got Milwaukee, 88-64. They have clinched the division. No one else has done it yet. Big celebration at the clubhouse last night. A lot of fun. Beer and champagne all over the place. No one's coming close to Milwaukee. In the West, you got LA at 90-62. San Diego's 3.5 back, and Arizona is 6 back. Daniel, speaking of leaking oil, Arizona is really leaking oil. They've only got a 77% chance now of making the playoffs. Now they are in direct competition with the Mets and Atlanta for wild card. Now, if that's important, hell, it is important, because I don't know if they're going to play LA or San Diego or San Francisco at all in the next 10 games or so, but they gotta pull it up. Now, you've heard me talk about Corbin Carroll. He's a super young player from Arizona. Last year, he was just did a hell of a job and carried Arizona almost to the World Series. Well, this year he wasn't hitting very well. He was hitting below the Mendoza line, which is 200. He had 2 home runs, 3 RBIs last night. Since he's crept his average up to 235, that's where he needs to be a lot higher than that, but at least he's hitting the ball. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they move Corbin Carroll back up to the beginning of the lineup, Starling Marte, so they can keep things going. They got to have it. Arizona, you gotta play better, buddy. They're, that over 4 ERA is correct. Is leading to your downfall. Average-wise, Arias from San Diego is hitting 320. Ozuna from Atlanta is hitting 306. Ohtani's at 287. Ohtani's got 48 homers. Ozuna's got 38 homers. Ohtani's got 110 RBIs. Ozuna's got 100. Now, last week and the week before, I was really touting Marcell Ozuna, to be a Triple Crown winner. He's hitting good. He's hitting home runs, and he's driving in runs. He doesn't have enough right now. He's trailing Ohtani by 10 home runs. He can't make that up. But he can at least he's got over 100 RBIs, which is good. He can at least bat better and try to pull his team up into the playoffs. You know, Ozuna, he was the one that carried him mid-stretch here. And they rely on him for home run. He's an MVP. I say not an MVP, but he is a designated hitter. You know how I feel about that, going for a most valuable player. But he deserves to be in a conversation. Wins. Chris Sale's got 17. He leads the ERA at 2.35. Saves Ryan Helsley from St. Louis has got 45. Now, I mentioned earlier about Ohtani as an MVP. Certainly, he's probably going to be the favorite. Ozuna's got an outside chance to catch him.
Yeah.
Ohtani is racing toward an unbelievable record that will never probably ever be thought of again. Is at 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases in the same year. As we speak, he has 48 homers and 49 are stolen bases. So, does that wrap it up for him for the MVP? That can be MVP in one league and MVP in the next league. Truly incredible.
Yeah.
We talked about the term generational talent. Well, he certainly is. Chris Sale, Atlanta, and probably going to win the Cy Young. It's possible that he could be talk for the MVP, but not likely. Wild card, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
As we speak right now, the American League, Minnesota at Houston. The winner plays Cleveland. Kansas City at Baltimore. The winner plays the Yankees. The National League, Arizona at Milwaukee. The winner plays LA. The Mets, who are leading, at San Diego. The winner plays Philly. So we have a lot of activity. Late run by Detroit in the American League. Late run by the New York Mets in the National League.
Yeah.
With Cleveland falling out. A lot. There's still a lot to play for in the last 10 games of the season.
Yeah, and as always, appreciate the breakdown and all of the information from pitching to hitting to where the teams are in standings to how they've done in their last few games to where everything is with the wild card. As always, PJ, finding a way to go around the entire country and take 30 Major League Baseball teams and put them in the pot and then come out with this message. A lot of things on my mind. One of them being the fact that Shohei Ohtani currently has 48 home runs and 49 stolen bases. He's in a place right now to be a 50-50 guy. I would imagine he's going to get there in the regular season. I would imagine he can crank out 2 more home runs probably in one game and that he can steal another base. Generational talent, we've talked about the fact that this gentleman could win MVP of the American League and then go and do it in the National League amidst the fact of being injured, amidst the fact of not pitching, amidst the fact of what he's had to go through personally to be where he is today. So, I mean, he doesn't seem rattled. A lot of things don't seem to shake him. He went from one LA to the other LA, the Angels to the Dodgers. He's been doing great things, and I'd love to get your thoughts on him and just where he's at. I mean, the dude is close to being a 50 home run, 50 stolen base player, coming off an injury, coming off surgery, coming off still rehabbing himself so that he could potentially pitch again, and he's still one of the greatest hitters in baseball.
he is that. There's not much more we can say about his talents and the records that he set. Maybe more records he's going to set. There's a little tidbit that I had read about a couple days ago, and that refers to his pitching. Now he's throwing some. He's pitching off the mound, bullpen obviously. There's a slight chance that they could use him in the playoffs. Now it'd have to probably be in a desperate situation where LA maybe is down 3-1 or two games to 0 in a 3-game series. It could be that he could be forced into action. Not forced into action. I think he's strong enough to pitch. I think that may be the Dodgers' ace in the hole. They don't have, Clayton Kershaw hasn't blown my skirt up either. And Walker Buehler pitched the other day, 6 innings, only gave up 2 runs. That was good for him. These guys have got to get into their norm here pretty soon because they're going to be called on in the playoffs. And possibly even Ohtani. I would like to see that because it brings excitement into the game.
Well, you think about this, manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers, Dave Roberts, had this to say. He said the chances are, quote-unquote, very slim, but he went on to say they are, quote-unquote, not zero that he could pitch. And so pretty awesome here that this could happen. So this is the quote that came out. Quote, Ohtani has been intermittently throwing bullpen sessions and could face hitters soon. He and the Dodgers pitching coaches have not talked about him contributing off the mound in the playoffs, a circumstance that might not even be possible until the World Series. But Ohtani said they'll all meet when the team returns to LA this weekend to discuss the rest of his rehab schedule, end quote, and thank that information from ESPN's Alden Gonzalez. So there could be an opportunity for this to happen. And PJ, what type of excitement, be it a Dodger fan, an Ohtani fan or not, that we could be watching the postseason, watch everything Ohtani's done as strictly a hitter this year, and if the Dodgers make it far enough that we could all of a sudden have a really close game between maybe them and the Phillies or whoever it may be, and they say, wait, hold a minute, are we hearing this right? And you see Ohtani jog out to the mound to pitch to try and, help them out in the middle of a game or late in the game. How crazy would that be?
That would make my year. I mean, I follow these guys pretty closely, and I'm pretty informational about most things. But this would certainly be. There's a chance. I mean, I said that, and Dave Roberts saying there's a slight chance. Well, no, there isn't a slight chance. There's a chance. There's a chance that he could pitch. I mean, he doesn't have to pitch a lot. Now, if the Dodgers are in a situation where they're losing, and they're losing a series, they can either use him to start or perhaps bring him in as a long reliever. Dodgers, Jack Flaherty's the only one that's pitching very well for them right now. And the rest of the guys are maybe 5-6 inning guys. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in relief. Look at the man is a beast. We know it. 6'5", 240 pounds. How he can run so fast and steal almost 50 bases, forget about it. I can't believe it. And I would be very, very excited to see that. As a matter of fact, Joe and I will be over here on the TV for the next 3 years if we were watching it.
Yeah, and it's really it's exciting to see what he's been doing. What's not exciting is that Orioles fans have seen a race pretty much all year long between them and the Yankees that has now almost dissolved if things don't change and change quickly. With under 15 regular season games to go, it's not a half-game lead by the Yankees. It's not a one-game lead by the Yankees. It's a 5-game lead by the Yankees over the Orioles, who, like you said, the Yankees go 7-3 in their last 10. The Orioles go 2-8. You speak about leaking oil and just kind of stopping and having to pull off the highway. I mean, that's where the Orioles are right now. They They were trying to be on the German Autobahn. They were trying to go 100 miles an hour. They were trying to get there and get there quick and win this division and close it out. And then all of a sudden the check engine light came on and they had to pull off the road. And so here we are in this situation where the Yankees have a commanding lead. The Yankees are about to hit 90 wins. PJ, what do you make of this? The fact that the Orioles, in recent history, they typically, so they went through this period where they started off really good in like the first 10 games of the season. And then for the last 152, you're like, where the hell was that team that started? Then the Orioles in recent history, like last year, were good throughout the regular season and became the number one team in the American League, but crapped out in the playoffs. Now they're starting to crap out even before the playoffs begin. They're there, they're in the wild card, but they are starting to do right now what they did last year in the postseason. Now they're doing it before the postseason. Should Baltimore Orioles fans be concerned of what their team looks like going into the postseason? And then secondly, are the Yankees really that good?
The Yankees are better than they were last year. That's no doubt about it. You got better pitching. Thank goodness Garrett Cole came off the IR, and has been pitching decent, not up to his standards, but they'll use him as a horse in the playoffs. Baltimore, I don't know what happened to Baltimore last year, and when I watched the start this year, I said, well, let's not talk about that anymore because they get another start this year. They're doing really well. And what happens? Yeah, they drop their transmission is what's happened. I think that they're led by Anthony Santander at 41 home runs, and Gunnar Henderson has 37 home runs. You guys have been hitting all year long. They had 3 or 4 other guys that have been hitting very well, but Baltimore's ERA is over 4 also. You can't win like that. As I said to you numerous times, you win with pitching and defense, and that ain't happening right now.
Yeah. And they've obviously struggled on the other side of it. The Phillies are 15 games above 500. They're 91-61 on the season. And they on the road, it's a little closer. On the road, they're 39-35. The good thing for Phillies fans is that they're not going to have to play on the road if they continue to win because they're currently in first place in the National League. So they're going to have to hold on to this thing. They're right there with the Dodgers and the Brewers. The Brewers are the only team that have clinched their division, PJ. No one has outright clinched their division. There's 6 divisions, 3 in the American League, 3 in the National League, and there's only one that's clinched. Shout out to MT if she's still within an earshot. What up, MT? Milwaukee taking care of business, but nobody else has secured the bag. We have not seen the Dodgers fully separate themselves from the Padres, who are now in second place, 3.5 games back. The Phillies, they're almost totally separated, but the Mets are 7 games back. The Mariners have fought to be 5 games behind the Astros, and the Royals are 6 games behind the Guardians, and the Orioles, as we mentioned, 5 games behind the Yankees. So there's only one division that's spoken for, and we've been talking about this for weeks, is that nobody was close to the Brewers. They were close to each other. They're all within a few games of each other, but the Cardinals, the Cubs, the Reds, and the Pirates, nobody was within single-digit games to the Brewers. Are you surprised at this point in the season that we talk about the Yankees, we talk about the Dodgers, we talk about the Astros, we talk about the Phillies, but the Brewers are the only team that have claimed their division? Is that surprising to you?
Frankly, it is this year. I have to admit that because Craig Counsell, the manager, was one of my favorite players to watch. He helped win a championship down in Miami several years ago, and he's been a sensational manager. And he knows his pitchers well, he knows his hitters well, he knows his fielders well, he knows it all. And I thought, with him leaving and going to the Cubs, I thought this is where the race is going to be. It's going to be the Cubs in Milwaukee. Well, the Cubs have rallied late here too to come up with a decent record. They'll probably be 500 or a little bit more than 500. And Milwaukee just kept winning. They had a new player in Rhys Hopkins, used to be with Philadelphia, and he's not doing much. So Wiley Adames is leading them. He's got over 100 RBIs. Well, I didn't think that. I didn't think it possible, especially with Counsell leaving. But I've been wrong. Their new manager is just as good as Counsell, and he's winning with just the same players. So kudos to Milwaukee. My bros are happy.
Here's a big question for you, PJ. It involves the American League and the National League. Tell me your thoughts right now. If the playoffs were to start today in Major League Baseball, as I talk with Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora worldwide on the Diamond right now, if the playoffs happen right now, in this moment, there would be 3 teams from the American League Central Division: the Guardians, the Royals, and the Twins. If the playoffs started today, there would be 3 teams from the National League West: the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Diamondbacks. In that order for both sides based on standing where teams are at right now. My question to you: do we see, when all is said and done and all the games are played and 162 games are logged into the stat book, does the American League Central and the National League West both get 3 teams in? Or are you concerned that one of them is going to get 2 and not 3? Do they both get 3? Or is there going to be a shakeup?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Minnesota is not playing as well as they have been. And Detroit is creeped up there. Even though Detroit only has a 36% chance to make the playoffs, Minnesota's 72. That's the battle in the American League right there. Those guys right there. Now, in the National League, it's different because New York and Atlanta are now fighting for that spot. And you got to throw Arizona in there, too. Arizona's got a 77% chance of making the playoffs. Atlanta, 52%. And the Mets have zoomed up to 71%. As we speak, it could be Atlanta on the outside looking in with New York and Arizona. But Arizona's got to play a lot better. Atlanta and New York. This is going to go down to the last couple of games, probably.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this is if you look at all the teams in the National League that are fighting for those wild card spots, Arizona is above the Mets, but they have the same record. And then the Braves are 2 games behind. But if you look at all of those teams within that in the last 10 games, let's look at the wild card down to the teams that are still fighting to get in that are not mathematically out of it. In the last 10 games, the Padres are 6-4. The Diamondbacks are 5-5. The Mets are 6-4. The Braves are 5-5. The Cubs are 5-5. The Cardinals are 5-5. So PJ, the lack of separation and the fact that some of these teams are still mathematically still alive comes down to the fact that they're 500 in the last 10 games or just a little bit above 500. Bring me into that. I mean, none of these teams are finishing strong at the moment right now. They're right there at the equator line, which has caused for all of these things to happen. No one has been 7-3 or 8-2 or 9-1 in their last 10 games. Nobody's dominating. The Padres, the Diamondbacks, the Mets, the Braves, the Cubs, the Cardinals, the Giants even. Nobody is better than 6-4 in their last 10. Most are 5-5. Your thoughts on that? Is the length of the season getting to these teams at this point? Is there the fatigue of the fact of like, hey, this is where we're at. We're in crunch time. And we saw the Diamondbacks catch fire last year. They caught fire coming out of the All-Star break this year. But when we look at the National League, everyone that has a fighting chance to get into the wild card is either 5-5 or 6-4 in their last 10 games.
That's not good baseball, certainly. I would say that Philly and Los Angeles probably can play 500 ball for the next 10 games or so, or 12 games, and be safe. But the other teams have got to certainly play better than 5-5. It's crucial. This is the manager time. This is why these guys get big money to manage these $1 million players.
Yeah.
Because if you have a starter that can go 5 innings and keep you in a ball game, you have a good relief staff, you can win, even if you're not hitting. If you're hitting and relieving and pitching at the same, you're doing much better, obviously. We saw that last year with Arizona. We had some good players of them just step forward Someone's got to pick it up here. The Mets, look at Pete Alfonso, Francisco Lindor. Now he's out. Lindar's not playing. Alfonso, McNeil, those guys are the ones that are carrying the Mets right now. Atlanta, you got Chris Sale, Marcell Ozuna. Ozuna's a DH. He's not playing the field. And Ozuna can only do so much. The other guys have got to get. Now, Acuna, who got hurt at the beginning of the year for Atlanta, was an MVP. And he is an extraordinary player. And losing him for the season sort of put the damper on Atlanta. But they still held in there. They pitched well. They hit well. They went up until the last 2 weeks, and they were still there. Now they're not. So you have Arizona at 77%, Atlanta 52%, and New York 71% chance to get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, for the Diamondbacks, we talk about how you play in the last 10 games. Well, they only have 10 games left to play. So how they play on the road at Milwaukee for a 4-game series that starts today at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be available to people all over, and you can watch it simply on Fox. It's on a major broadcast network tonight, Thursday, September 19th at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. It's fought against Myers, and I mean, the Milwaukee has already wrapped up their division. Will they sit some people? Are they going to look at how they're going to utilize pitching? Because if they have to play Arizona in just a little while within the next couple of weeks, do they not want to show a lot of things or save some guys? So that'll be interesting to see how things shake out because they've already wrapped up their division. Does that work in Arizona's favor? We shall see. But they got a 4-game series there. Then they have a home series against the San Francisco Giants, who are almost mathematically out of the postseason. And then they have the San Diego Padres, who are currently ahead of them, who they've been fighting with all season. You don't want it. I put it to you like this. They have to win of the 7 games they have coming up between Milwaukee, 4 of those, and then 3 against San Francisco. They're going to have to take 7 of 7 or 6 of 7 to make the final series against San Diego matter if San Diego continues to play strong. The Diamondbacks last year had to run a gamut in their last 15 games. They ran it well. They put themselves in fantastic position. They made it to the World Series. Now they have to show what they can do in 10 games. They have to take care of Milwaukee, and they have to take care of them convincingly. They're going to have to win all 4 or 3 of 4, and then with San Francisco, they got to barrel through that and go 3-0 and to really make that San Diego series matter. This is going to decide if they make the postseason, and it's going to decide where they make it in the postseason. They were the number 1 wild card team. They were the number 4 seed, being the number 1 wild card team. And right now, they're tied with the Mets. If the Mets stay hot, if the Braves do anything positive, then this is a danger zone for Arizona. You don't want to rely on another team to dictate if you make it and where you make it. You never want to put your future in the hands of somebody else. You want to put that future in your own hands. They have to take care of business, and they have to do it in these last 10 games, and they're going to have to win the majority of them to safely put themselves in the postseason and have a fighting chance to have that last series with the San Diego Padres matter, where the Padres have to put their best against the Diamondbacks have to put their best against the Padres, and if they're both in that series to claim who's going to be the number 2 seed of the NL West, then that's a good place for the Diamondbacks to be. You don't want to back into the playoffs. You don't want to just barely make the playoffs. You don't want to get in because the Mets made a mistake or the Braves, didn't win this close matchup or whatever it may be. They have to take care of business, PJ, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Secondly, I want to get your thoughts on the fact that you can go and see the Diamondbacks play the Brewers any one of the next 4 days between Thursday to Sunday, and it's going to cost you $5 to $10 a game.
That's what I mean. The only advantage Arizona has right now in going to play Milwaukee is that, like we said, Milwaukee has clinched. Now, usually, not all the time, but usually managers will give their guys some rest. And they'll bring up different pitchers. They got 28 guys on a roster now. They can look at some different pitchers, different DH combinations, different left and right combinations, pitching and hitting. So this is a time for Milwaukee to sit back a little bit and maybe do a little massaging with their lineup. Not saying they won't try to win. Of course they're going to try to win. But this is a time for them maybe to see what other guys could do in a pressure situation. That's the only advantage that Arizona has right now.
Yeah, so we shall see. The last 10 games going to matter a lot. Arizona has done a lot of good things. They've gotten a lot of big run games and victories, but they've also dropped some here, and they've dropped some to teams that kind of make you scratch your head and how they've competed in some of these games, including losing 2 of 3 to the Colorado Rockies, who have been out of it for a long time this season inside of the NL West. So, with that being said, we're going to switch off of baseball and stay on the field, but head to college football. PJ and I will recap how we did in Week 3 of our college football picks. What does Week 4 look like for us? And then we'll go into the NFL and recap Week 2, jump into Week 3. What are you going to say, PJ? What did you say?
Talking to Mary.
Oh, okay. So PJ here with us. We're going to take a step aside. Our recap of college football Week 3 and NFL Week 2 are coming up. Our picks for college football Week 4 and the NFL Week 3 are going to be on their way as well. Stay right here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We are worldwide, and we are having some fun this morning. How did PJ and I do? Did we create any separation from each other? Well, you'll find out after this fast break where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Stay with us. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We hope that you are having yourself a wonderful, wonderful week on Wake Up Call, and I hope that you are enjoying things. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're being good to each other. I hope you're treating people the way that you would like to be treated, and I hope that life is fun for you. I hope that everything's going well. I really do. So I'm always praying for you, even if you're not praying for me. You know, that's the thing that I look at in life here is you be good to everybody. Jesus said don't be good to some people. He didn't say be good to the people that agree with you. He said love everyone as you would want to be loved. So let's do that today. With that being said, we're going to jump into our college Week 3 recap. The list is up here of who PJ and I picked. It is on your screen. To those of you that are listening, we're going to read these off to you as well. So PJ and I take a look at the last week, and then we go into our picks for this week. So I'm going to jump into last week here in college football for week 3 and see how we did. And as we go to the big board, PJ took Kansas State and I took Arizona. Arizona had an awful game. PJ was right. I was wrong. Kansas State won 31-7. What a terrible game for that. 2 top 20 teams at the time. They were ranked in that moment here. And then we have, I do want to make a note here, UNLV has started off the season strong. They're going to be playing Syracuse in Syracuse's first road game of the season, which will kick off October. PJ and I going to one of the games that we didn't pick. I don't think we picked it. No, we didn't. We didn't pick the Georgia-Kentucky game, and Georgia won a baseball game 13-12 in that one. We did take a look at Alabama-Wisconsin, and they took care of Wisconsin 42-10. No surprise there, so I'm going to go ahead and circle that for the both of us, so we got that correct. As far as Oklahoma State in their matchup, as we go down the line here to see how they did, Oklahoma State and Tulsa, they won 45-10, so a very close score like Alabama had in their game to get their victory over Wisconsin. So we both got that one right. And then LSU and South Carolina. PJ's right about LSU, but South Carolina blew that one. They had an opportunity at home to take care of business. I don't know what the heck happened there. And then PJ picked FSU, and what did I tell y'all? What did I say? Memphis is the last team that Mike Norvell wants to see with an 0-2 start, to see his old team come to town, a head coach in Ryan Silverfield that worked with him. They know each other well. Ryan Silverfield was an assistant under Mike Norvell at Memphis, and I said the last game that he wants to see in this third week, after everything that's gone on, the last game that he wants to go into is a game against his old team, his old fan base, and a guy who knows him well. What did Memphis do? They came in, they took care of business. I called that game 20-12. Memphis wins the bout. Boston College, folks. The Boston College, a team that has been ranked in the nation's top 25 in the first year of Bill O'Brien being there. Well, they gave Missouri, who was ranked 6th in the country, a strong game here on the road, but they lost 27-21, so PJ and I got that one wrong. Oklahoma, where the wind goes swinging. I don't even know what it is. Something about Oklahoma where the wind goes swinging on the bay. I don't know. Those words are probably wrong. I have no idea, but I think I know what they say. Oklahoma won their game 34-19 over Tulane at home. We got that one correct. And then we go to the Washington game. The Washington Huskies. How is Washington doing in their first season as a Big Ten school? Well, we're going to see very soon how they end up playing when they get into the thick of things. But against Washington State, they lost at home. Washington State gets the victory on the road. PJ and I were wrong about that one. East Carolina loses by 2 to Appalachian State, who I told you plays spoiler. East Carolina 2-0, goes into the game, loses at home 21-19. I spoke with the head coach of the East Carolina Pirates in an all-new segment, a signature series on Wake Up Call brought to you exclusively by Brooklyn Pickle down in North Carolina on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina, right by Pinehurst Golf Courses. Head to Brooklyn Pickle and watch our series called Pirates on Call. It debuted yesterday with head coach Mike Houston, and we spoke about that game, and he said, I can go to multiple points during the game and find 2 points. I can go all over the game and find 2 points. Got to take care of business. They have a game against Liberty on the road coming up this week, which will finish off their non-conference play, and they want a victory over Liberty, who's been a very strong team over the last few years. Utah, PJ and I thought the Utah Utes were going to get it done, and the Utah Utes went up against Utah State, and they're in state rivalry here. They won 38-21, so we got that one correct. And then we go to Ole Miss and the Lane Train, who defeated Wake Forest 40-6 on the road. Lane Train going in there and leaving tracks all over Winston-Salem. And then we look at Florida and Texas A&M, and the Florida Gators. I was watching this game. PJ's a Gator. Y'all know it. And he has been a fan of the Gators for a very long time and loves the school dearly. Texas A&M wins the game 33-20. The Gators still have Billy Napier as their head coach. And the confusion that I face right now is the fact that he refuses to decide who his quarterback is. With that being said, PJ started off 4-1, and then 4-2, 5-2, 5-3, 5-4, 6-4, 7-4, 7-5. So PJ ends this week, college football week 3, with a 7-5 record, and I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-5 as well. So we chose some different games here. We both went 7-5. Any notes, any rants? I can imagine that you might want to rant about the Gators. You might want to rant about Billy Napier. You might want to rant about how Florida's only beaten Stanford and Sons to start off the season. You might want to talk about the fact that they still have two quarterbacks in DJ Lagway and Graham Mertz, and that almost never works, that you have two guys coming in throughout the game that have different skill sets. I am getting louder and louder because I didn't grow up a Gator fan, but I'm frustrated. I'm confused. I don't get it. Why get rid of Dan Mullen? Why go into this situation? You had 3 straight New Year's Six Bowls, not bowl games, not postseason. New Year's Six Bowls under Dan Mullen. He got Florida the closest that they've ever been, the only time they've ever been close to the college football playoff, and getting there. They almost made it there. Could have argued them as a 2-loss team. They ended up losing 3, and I think that was the difference. Then they get rid of Dan Mullen. They bring in Billy Napier. It doesn't work out. They go and find Graham Mertz in the transfer portal. They bring in DJ Lagway. They can't seem to close out a game. They don't play defense, and they will not choose a quarterback. Papa Joe, if there was ever a time for you to rant, baby, rant, do it right now.
Oh, boy. Yeah, this is a good rant because it's going to be a double rant. One's going to be on Florida, one's going to be on FSU. I spent my junior year at the University of Florida, and that's probably the best time I've had in college, but that was so far away. That's when Florida was dominant back then, too. But listen, Billy Napier is a nice man. He's a Christian man. He's a good man. He's a winner, but not in this particular situation. He is not a Power 5 coach. He's not doing it. There's too many variables that he's missing. It all happens on the lines. The offensive and defensive lines both are terrible. They can't run the ball. They can't protect. They can't go after. Look at Texas A&M. Could have scored 60 points and run up 500 yards on the ground. Yeah. They took it easy on them, and I'm just disgusted. I mean, it's one thing to see your team get beat, but to see your team get smashed in 2 out of 3 games against 2 powers, it ain't going to work, Daniel. He's not going to make it. Now, whether the Gators will jettison him during the season, which I hope they don't because I don't like that, it's probably, look, he's got to win this week. Mm-hmm. He has to beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State is like the Gators, not going anywhere. They're not doing anything either. But they're at Mississippi State. It's going to be loud. So it'll be difficult to get the plays off. But Napier has not handled his quarterback situation at all. Graham Mertz should have never got hurt. I wish Graham Mertz didn't get hurt because we'd probably be in a better chance of playing against Texas A&M. DJ Lagway looked brilliant against Stanford, but it was a junior college team they played. Now, he faced a tough team, but a good defensive front, and linebackers and defensive guys that went after him. He's going to be a good quarterback. But he looked like a shell of himself as opposed to the Stanford game. I don't think Steve Spurrier years ago used, or was it Urban Meyer? I can't remember. When it was Chris Lee, it was Urban. Chris Lee of Florida and the young kid in Tebow, as we know now. He alternated them in several games. It seemed to work for him because, Chris Leak was a marginal player, but, Tim Tebow was going to be a future Cy Young, Heisman Trophy winner. So it worked for Steve Irvin back then, but it's not working now. And I think that Billy has to look at this game and see what happens if they can possibly win it with only one quarterback to do it, to get the win, to get to 2-2, and then they go into a killer schedule. They go into Georgia, they go into Alabama, they go this and that. At Tennessee, the four top teams in the top 10, that's who they're going to face after Mississippi State. So it's looking real dismal, Daniel. I thought maybe perhaps they could squeak out a 6-5 season, but it's looking really poor. And to get to the other part of this equation, on the west side of Florida, FSU isn't much better. The only difference is that Florida can get rid of Billy Napier. I know for a fact that the boosters have already collected $27 million to pay out Billy Napier. That I know is a fact. Now, on the other side of the coast, over at FSU, Norvell is safe there. There's more chance of pissed at him, certainly. There are some little war chant guys over there, too. Got plenty of money, but his buyout's a little bit more. But he's not near as bad as Billy Napier right now. The only problem with Mr. Norvell is he thought he had a better team than he had.
Yeah.
And watching those guys play, his defensive and offensive lines got pushed around. Now they're bringing in California. Who knows what California is going to do? I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what Mike Novell is going to do. But one thing he's got to do, I don't know if he's going to do it this game, he's got to get rid of DJ. DJ ain't making it. I know BJ's a big, tall, strong guy, did this, did that. It's not working for Mike here. Now, he's going to play him in the California game. So let him play him in the California game. The other quarterbacks he's got, they're young. They're redshirt freshmen or freshmen. They're just puppies, DJ's got to carry the load, and it ain't working. So both of these teams are just floundering. That's a good term for it, floundering. Mike Novell, as good as the coach he is, doesn't have a clue what's going on over there. And Billy Napier doesn't have a clue either. So both of these teams, I know I had a double rant this morning, but it deserved. These two teams I needed to rant on.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing. It just goes to show how important the quarterback position is. Because last year, when they had Jordan Travis. Now, keep in mind, Jordan Travis, and he fully understood this, Jordan Travis was booed by Florida State fans for a year, if not 2 years. Then all of a sudden they loved him. But he remembers that. He knows the shift. And with him, the team looked unstoppable last year. The reason why I didn't pick Florida State to win the ACC like the majority of the ACC media did, and I'm not discrediting them by doing this, that's their choice. They've been right. I've been right. Sometimes I'm in the majority, sometimes I'm in the minority. But I didn't pick Florida State. And I didn't pick Florida State because I didn't trust that DJ Uiagalelei was going to get it done. I didn't trust that he's never been there before. He's never worked with Mike Norvell before. I did not trust that it was going to work out to the point where they were going to win the entire conference. I think a lot of people that were voting for Florida State, and this is just my opinion, this is not me saying that this is what they did, this is my thought, is that because I know going through this myself in the media, sometimes you get caught up in what I call the hangover. The hangover that Florida State should have made it. The hangover that Jordan Travis was really good and he got screwed. The hangover that Florida State should have the opportunity to play for a championship because they didn't have it last year. But you have to look at the fact that they lost guys to the NFL. They lost guys to the transfer portal. They don't have Jordan Travis. And it just goes to show at Florida State that if you don't have the right quarterback, other things can be going right. But there's a reason why the quarterback, I think now, and I'm not discrediting any other position on the field. I'm just making it known. What other position on the field can you take out that one player and everybody else is good and you can't win? Think about it last year with the New York Jets. They had one of the best defenses in the country of 32 NFL franchises. And it kept them in games, but they couldn't win. They couldn't close out games. Why? Because their defense was so great, but their quarterbacks were awful. That's why they didn't win. Why is Florida State struggling right now? Because no matter what their team has done, the defense, and I know this from being a Syracuse fan, when I watch, and granted, on broadcast, I'm impartial. You know I haven't picked Syracuse to win every single game. I didn't do it this year. Growing up a Syracuse kid and watching these games, I know for a fact that Syracuse in recent history has had a defense that gave the offense the ball over and over and over and over again, 2-3 times in a row. And the offense didn't win because they didn't have a quarterback that was getting them down the field. That is the issue right now with Florida. Florida does not know who their guy is. And I don't care what anybody says. When an offensive line has to play with two different quarterbacks, that's got to be frustrating. It's not great to bring it. It's not like you can just interchange a guy. Now, they did it with Chris Leak and Tim Tebow, but that's a rarity. Name another time, name multiple times in history where a college or a professional football team had two quarterbacks in the same game, used them every week, and it worked. It worked at Florida. But did it work consistently over and it's not working right now with Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway. It's just not working. So when we look at these two teams in the state of Florida and we look at how they're floundering and how they have a combined record of 1-5, they don't have a quarterback that is leading them down the field. And that, to me, is the glaring issue. It's why I didn't pick Florida State. And until Florida picks their quarterback, I don't think they're ever going to know who they could be. And Billy Napier, it might be a hard decision, but Billy, I'm going to tell you a cautionary tale. I'd rather you pick your quarterback and see what it can become than the boosters picking when you get fired. So that is where I stand on where we are right now. By the way, they've claimed that UCF won't play Florida. UCF, they say they will, but they won't. But this year, UCF will play Florida, and they will play them on October 5th. That game is going to be in Gainesville, and UCF is licking their chops because UCF's had some tough games, but unlike Florida, they've won. They've looked better. Florida, in their two losses this season, have been outscored 74-37. Those games are against Miami and Texas A&M. A game against Mississippi State on the road does not bode well. Then you have to play UCF. Then you have to play at Tennessee. Then you have to play Kentucky at home, who almost beat Georgia. Then you have to play Georgia. Then you have to play Texas. Then you have to play LSU. Then you have to play Ole Miss. And at the end of the season, you play Florida State. The reality of it all is Florida picked a bad time to have a really tough schedule. And where we are right now with the Florida Gators is I don't see a game that is winnable for the way that they've been playing football until the last game of the year, which is Florida State. And the only reason why that game is winnable is because they, like Florida, do not have a direction with their quarterback. So, PJ, I understand your qualms. I understand your concerns because I echo them. And in the chamber of life that college football is right now, Florida State has realized they picked the wrong quarterback. And it would behoove Mike Norvell to make a change today. And if he doesn't make it, and this is not me wishing bad on DJ Uiagalelei, I don't wish bad on him at all. I'm just saying it's not working. So he has a redshirt freshman who's played sparingly. They don't have Tate on the team that they had last year, who was the backup to Jordan Travis. So they don't have Tate Rodemaker. They have a redshirt freshman. And they have two true freshmen. At this point, make a decision. Put somebody else out there, even just to light a fire under the butt of DJ. Maybe seeing himself off the field is going to turn on something inside him. Sometimes that works. And on the other side with Florida, like I said, if Billy Napier doesn't choose his quarterback, I think he's going to see a faster decision on him.
That's right.
So with that being said, let's get into college football week 4. A lot of great games coming up. 3 games are happening on Friday night. And we are going to start with Syracuse, who is hosting Stanford. Fran Brown has called it the Battle of the Block S. The red S for Stanford, the orange S for Syracuse. In the game, offensive quality control analyst who's been on the show, Corey Etzel, returns to Syracuse where he played quarterback under Doug Marrone. Also returning to Syracuse for the first time since leaving is Justin Lamson, a California kid who came and committed to Syracuse, got hurt, had to sit out a year, and then tried to become the starter on the team, eventually left, and is now a backup at Stanford who plays as a running quarterback. And in the first 2 games that Stanford has played this season, they're 1-1, and in both of those games, Justin Lamson, the former Syracuse quarterback, has a rushing touchdown. I can tell by the way he's built that dude's gotten bigger. Looks more like a linebacker when you look at his upper shoulders and everything there. Stanford at Syracuse, PJ. The game is Friday night. It's on ESPN, and it's at 7:30 p.m. in the Dome. Who wins?
Well, I've been following what you've been doing with Syracuse and, of course, reading all your accounts and stuff. And I think that Fran is doing a good job up there. I don't know what Stanford's going to bring, but I do believe that the O-Dome should be well enough for them to carry this through. So I like Syracuse.
Yeah, PJ's going with Syracuse on the pregame show with Isaac on Tortora and Alford, a wake-up call product. I picked Syracuse in that game as well, 35-20. So PJ's going with the orange on Friday night. I will also be going with the orange. It is a historic game for Stanford as it's their first ever game as a member of the Atlantic Coast Conference. And if you ever wanted to find out just how crazy realignment has become, say to yourself out loud that Stanford is in the Atlantic Coast Conference and their home is on the Pacific Coast. Next game that we have up here, crazy. But I love having them because they've been terrific. So I love that they're there. It just doesn't make geographical sense. But as far as being spoiled, I'm happy that Troy Taylor and the team are inside of the ACC. Illinois at Nebraska. Here's 2 teams that maybe you don't think would have been ranked. Illinois is ranked 24th in the nation. And remember, in not too distant past, I should say, Tommy DeVito was their quarterback. He left from Syracuse to go to another orange and blue. Now he's with the New York Giants, and my prediction going into the season is that Tommy DeVito will start at least 1 game for the Giants. If they continue to play as poorly as they have been, he may play more than 1 game for the New York Giants. Illinois, number 24 in the country, is on the road at Nebraska, who's ranked 22 in the nation. Nebraska has long since been one of the worst teams in college football. In 1983, they came to the Dome as the number 1 team in the nation, and Syracuse took them down. Fast forward to the last few years. Scott Frost leaves UCF, where he was building a powerhouse, arguably. He leaves and goes back to his alma mater of Nebraska, and they let him go. Now who's there? Another coach I know, and another former American Athletic Conference coach. That's the former Temple head coach that went to Baylor and then went to the Carolina Panthers, Matt Rule. And he is ruling out there with the Huskers. They're ranked in the top 25. I think Huskers fans got to be extremely happy to see themselves anywhere near, even sniffing, the top 25. Illinois at Nebraska, PJ. Are either one of these teams for real? And are you going to be watching the game?
I'm not sure if I'm going to watch it or not, but it's I like Nebraska in this game. I'm Matt Rule, you proved me wrong, bud. I thought you've been a terrible coach for a long time, but you're proving me wrong. And why? Because he's got a good young freshman quarterback. He's probably going to stay with him for 3 years. If they keep winning, this kid Raiola is going to keep playing for him, and he's a world beater. This kid, and if they're playing at home, I mean, you got to go with Nebraska.
Yeah, PJ's going Nebraska. I'm going with Matt Rule in Nebraska as well. I got Nebraska winning. The game is going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Fox. And I'm totally fine with you coming to the Dome and then playing the other game on your phone. But you can't do it the other way. So you got to come to the Dome and pack the Dome for Stanford at Syracuse, a historic night. And you can watch Nebraska and Illinois as well and go with Nebraska to win the game at home. We're going to go into Saturday. And Saturday we have a game that is typically a trip-up game potentially for Clemson. They found their way out of it sometimes because NC State couldn't make a field goal. Well, NC State got the best of Clemson, And Clemson started off this season losing by 31 points at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the home of the Atlanta Falcons, in a neutral ground game up against the Georgia Bulldogs, who were ranked number 1 in the nation at the time. Clemson was ranked 14. Clemson has gone from 14 to 25 to 21. NC State is unranked. NC State goes to Death Valley to face Clemson on ABC at noon Eastern time. PJ, 2 questions for you. Who wins the game, NC State at Clemson? And do you think the moderators will be fair to both teams?
Probably not. But, yeah, Clemson's going to wake up. I thought we saw the real Clemson last week, and they've eked up the polls a little bit. They're playing at home. This is going to be a rabid fan base, and Clemson's defense is going to win this game.
Yeah, Clemson to me is they're a team that's ripe to show you who they are. And as good as NC State has been against Clemson, I have Clemson winning this game and trying to tell the country that they are for real and that they are a team to be reckoned with this season. And I think Dabo and the team are trying to say, hey, week 1 was an anomaly. We had to figure some things out. We're figuring it out. And I think we're going to see them rise up to top 25 and slowly but surely maybe make a case for themselves. So we shall see. I did pick Clemson to win the ACC in the preseason. So I have a lot of respect for Dave Doran and NC State. Lord knows I do. And I also have a lot of respect for Dabo Swinney and tremendous respect for the way that they've both treated me over the years, and love talking about faith with Dabo Swinney. And I love that he uses his platform to reach millions of people talking about God. That is what I respect more than football. So looking at the next thing here, PJ, dare I ask you this? After everything we've said today, would you say?
Yes, you can ask me.
Florida at Mississippi State, also at noon on ESPN. And this game is going to be on ESPN. So we'll see if ESPN keeps it on or if they cut away. Is this game going to be ugly? Is it going to be good? Are they going to leave the game on, PJ? The one thing I can tell you is at least the game is a little bit, the price is, you go to see Arizona at Milwaukee, and these are 2 potential playoff teams. Definitely Milwaukee. They could be playing each other. The games are only $5, but this game is $49. Florida at Mississippi State, noon Eastern time, ESPN. What do you got?
Our listeners heard me rant, I'm sure, and it's justified. But I am not a fair weather friend. I am a fan. I mean, I'm gonna pull for them and pick them just like you do with Syracuse. I'm hoping that Florida wins this game, and I am picking them not because they're the better team, but because of my allegiance to them.
They have struggled. They've only beaten Samford. They haven't chosen their quarterback. They're playing on the road. I love you, PJ. I'm picking Mississippi State. I'm picking the Bulldogs. I do not believe in Florida right now until they give me something to believe in. I'm sitting here scratching my head, wondering what they are and who they're going to be. One team that has been ranked this season and is now unranked, and I thought them falling down the rankings would at least put Syracuse at 25, but it didn't yet. Kansas used to be, I think, number 19 in the country, 18, 19, somewhere around there. They're on the road at West Virginia. The game is in the Big 12. West Virginia lost a really close game in the backyard brawl against Pitt at Pitt. And after the game, Pat Narduzzi on live television called out the refs, and he absolutely got fined. But you know what? I give the man credit, I'm not going to say like, oh, I'm happy that he went against the officials, because I know officials and I know coaches. And I think it's a very delicate dance. I don't knock him for trying to speak his mind, but as soon as I saw him speak his mind, I went, dude's definitely gonna lose some money in his bank account. Kansas at West Virginia, PJ, what do you got?
This is kind of a pick'em game. It's actually 2.5-point favorite for Kansas, or West Virginia, I should say. I think West Virginia controls this game at home.
Yeah, this one to me is difficult because I really do think that it can go either way. I am going to ultimately go with West Virginia because I just don't see Kansas. I don't see Kansas pulling this one out on the road. I don't see it happening. And now that I've said that, they'll probably blow out West Virginia. But I don't see it happening in this game. I think West Virginia, I mean, listen, I'm not a believer in West Virginian football in recent history of like consistently being good. And so we'll see what happens here. But I'm excited to see how it all shakes out. And I'm going to give West Virginia the edge here at home, which I think helps them out as well. Virginia, PJ, they have a head coach who Tony Elliott, who a lot of people thought were on the hot seat coming into the season, thought he was on the hot seat. He started off the season 2-1, beat Richmond, beat Wake Forest on the road, lost to Maryland at home 27-13. He was the former offensive coordinator under Dabo Swinney right before he took the job at Virginia. So my question to you is Virginia for real? They're going on the road to Coastal Carolina, and for those of you that don't know, Coastal Carolina plays on a teal turf, and they are the Chanticleers. I think they're one of the coolest names, one of the coolest logos, and they have a teal turf. Come on now. Why don't the Jaguars have a teal turf? So Virginia at Coastal Carolina, what do you got?
I like Virginia in this game.
Yeah, PJ is going to go with Virginia. I'm also going to pick Virginia in this matchup. I think Coastal Carolina, I mean, they've played spoiler to teams in the past, and they've done some good things. But ultimately, I think Virginia's going to win this one on the road. So, I mean, for me, I got to go Virginia. This is a tough one for me to pick, though. This is not as easy as some people might think to just simply pick this game and say, oh, Virginia, they're in the ACC, yada, yada, yada. Tough game to pick, but ultimately I'm going to also go with Virginia as well. So I'll put it up on the board for us. And then PJ and I are going to go, we're going to give you a few more games here in week 4 before we jump to the NFL. The next game that we're going to go to, PJ, is going to take us to number 11, Lincoln Riley's USC Trojans, on the road at number 18, Michigan. The last time a tough team came in and played Michigan this season, Michigan lost by 19 points when Texas came to town. Now USC is coming to town, but here's the weird thing. This isn't the Pac-12 versus the Big Ten. This is a Big Ten game. USC's in the Big Ten. Michigan's in the Big Ten. Tickets aren't that expensive in Ann Arbor. They're only $67. That's the lowest ticket you can find. Does Lincoln Riley come in and hand Michigan their second loss in the first 4 weeks of the season now that they're actually playing a schedule that doesn't involve them playing a bunch of bakeries, churches, and preschools? Or does Michigan get the victory?
It's going to be a good game. I think it's really a pick-em game. Michigan has to look like they're going to do better. I mean, talk about line of scrimmage problems. They've got all sorts of problems. USC is going to come in with some powerful weapons. And Lincoln Riley, I think, is catching on now what he needs to do. Last season was a debacle, but I like him this season. I like him in this game.
Yeah, they played Fresno State unranked and beat them at home 30-10, speaking of Michigan. They played Texas at home, and they lost 31-12. They played Arkansas State at home unranked and won 28-18. They're playing USC at home. They're playing Minnesota at home. Did you hear what I just said, PJ? Michigan is not leaving Ann Arbor for the first 5 weeks of the season. And this is something that has happened over and over again. Doesn't it seem all too favored to one side that not only is Michigan playing at home their first 5 games of the season, but in the games against ranked teams and tough teams, Texas has to go to Michigan. USC has to go to Michigan. Don't you find that to be a little interesting that Michigan has 5 straight home games to open up the season, and the games that they're playing against teams that could challenge them are not on the road?
It's typical preferential treatment by the Big Ten. You know, whatever they can do to help Michigan and Ohio State, that's what they're going to do, and that's what they did. So, but they expected Michigan to be a a killer. Well, starting the season, it didn't look that way. So we'll see what they're made of now.
Yeah, we're definitely going to see what they're made of. PJ, are you going USC or Michigan? What'd you say again?
USC.
Yeah, so PJ's going with Lincoln Riley and USC. I'm going to go with USC as well. I mean, Michigan has not proven, again, and granted, they only played one ranked team. I'm surprised they played any ranked teams in their non-conference, but they're playing USC, and listen, Lincoln Riley, I thought that him leaving Oklahoma when Oklahoma made the decision to join the SEC, I thought he got out at a good time. Going over to USC, the Pac-12 is wide open, and I thought, great move. Get out of Oklahoma so you don't have to deal with going to the SEC. Go to the Pac-12 where it's winnable, and no team has been great inside of the Pac-12 consistently. So I thought it was a great move for him, but now he's in the Big Ten, and I think that he's going to hold court. Lincoln Riley's a guy where I'm kind of sitting here saying I'm not going to anoint him and say like it's definitely figured out at USC yet, but I think winning a game over Michigan on the road can help show that they're in a place where maybe they're figuring some things out and putting themselves in a good footing. PJ, the next game that I have coming up here, a lot of people, Louisville, they've been in the top 12 as far as probability of making it to the college football playoff early this season. They played 2 games. They beat Austin Peay, who is unranked, 62-0. They beat Jacksonville State 49-14. I bet you Florida State is jealous about that. And now they have Georgia Tech. And all of these games are at home. I know that Louisville is a dangerous team. I know that they're definitely a dangerous team when they're playing in Louisville, Kentucky. I've seen a lot of Syracuse games to know that. So does Georgia Tech, who used to be ranked, do they have a fighting chance up against Louisville? Or is it the Birds that will go to 3-0?
I think Louisville is too strong for this game. Georgia Tech really looked like a top 10 team when they beat FSU in the first game of the season. But that isn't the same team here. This is a big team right here. Louisville wins this game.
Yeah, I'm going with Louisville as well to win the matchup. I think that this team has played. They've been a good team regardless of record when they're playing at home. They got a better record this year. There's some publicity behind them, and I think that they could be a really strong team. I think the ACC is wide open, and I think you can't overlook Louisville any week this season. And I think that they're not going to be necessarily an underdog. I think in some games they're going to be an overdog, and I think people have to pay attention to that. Couple more before we get into the NFL. Number 12, Utah at number 14, Oklahoma State. The game is at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. PJ, does Utah continue to roll, or does Oklahoma State get this one? Keep in mind, Utah has started off this season 3-0. They just beat their in-state game in Utah State, if you want to call that a rivalry. I'm sure it lands more on the side of Utah, but the in-state opportunity, Oklahoma State is 3-0. Somebody's coming out of this game with a loss. Is it Utah or is it Oklahoma State?
This is a pick'em game, and it's going to be a very good game, too. I watched Oklahoma State last week. I think it was beat Arkansas State. They didn't look very good. But I like Oklahoma State here because they're playing at home. They're physical.
Yeah, PJ's going with Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State trying to be the identifier of the Big 12 now that now has 16 schools. Big 12, Oklahoma State, Utah. I think Utah's got an opportunity to win this game. And PJ, I'm going to go off on a line here. Utah is now in the Big 12 with Oklahoma State, as confusing as that may be for people. And I think Utah comes from the western part of the United States and beats Oklahoma State. And I think that Utah goes to 4-0 on the season, handing Oklahoma State their first loss. The last game we're going to pick for college football here, PJ, is going to take me. I'm trying to find a game as I'm looking through all of this. There's the late games. Oh, pardon me. So the scheduling on this one. Let me go back to week 4 here. So I'm looking at some of these games down the line. Yeah, so that's one that I definitely want to get to. There's one that there's a few big ones here because some of these games are going to be played late at night. So I do want to get to the one that you mentioned, and we're going to go to that. There's 3 games we're going to do. I'm going to start with this one. California. I interviewed Justin Wilcox. Like half of his team came out of the transfer portal. They're trying to make a case for themselves. Cal has had a good start to their season. They're playing their first ever ACC game. They're playing it on the East Coast, on the Atlantic Coast, coming from the Pacific Coast. And so you got Cal coming to Florida State. You got Stanford coming to Syracuse. Both of these California teams that are in the ACC for the first time ever are having their historic first game as an ACC member on the East Coast. Cal is 3-0. They beat UC Davis. They beat Auburn on the road at Auburn, and they just beat San Diego State. So none of those teams are ranked. However, the win over Auburn and the win over San Diego State, especially beating Auburn in Auburn, to me says something about what this Cal team could very well be. I said going into the season that they may not be getting the respect that they necessarily deserve, and they could be better than maybe how people are seeing them. They're going to Florida State. Does Florida State go 0-4 against Cal?
Well, I'm going to. I thought real closely about this game, and it's not as bad as I think it's going to be. I know California's a good team, but it's sort of like a pick-em game. There's only a 2-point difference here. I gotta say, Daniel, that FSU's got to pull this one out. This could be a crossroads for Norvell too. I mean, just because the Bull Gators got money to buy out Bill Napier, I know those Bull Warcham guys over there got money to take out Norvell too. So you got to win this game. I think they will.
PJ, I mean, I said that the one team that Mike Norvell doesn't want to see in Week 3 starting 0-2 is to see his old team in Memphis. And they lost that one at home. Cal is a team that is really trying to catch fire early on this season and show that they're a force to be reckoned with. They're trying to put themselves back on the college football map. They're playing their first ACC game. Do they put themselves on the map nationally, coming across the country and beating Mike Norvell and Florida State? They do. I'm going with Cal in this game. And keep in mind, I have the utmost respect for Mike Norvell, and I'm one of the first people in the room to defend him. I have to be impartial. I think Cal is in a different place than Florida State is, and I think that Cal is ripe to go and take this game from Florida State. Florida State has to win this game, but I think Cal is going to come through with the victory. Miami at South Florida. In his first year, Alex Golesh brought South Florida to a bowl game. They blew out Syracuse. Granted, South Florida had all their players pretty much and their coaching staff. Syracuse was without Dino Babers, part of their coaching staff under Dino Babers. They were without Aronde Gadsden, their number one wide receiver who plays tight end. They were without their quarterback in Garrett Schrader, who had surgery. But South Florida blew the doors open on that game. South Florida last season played Alabama in South Florida, in Tampa, and they held them under 20 points and they made it a game. South Florida went to Alabama this season, and up until the last under 7 minutes to play in the fourth quarter, it was a one-possession game. South Florida against Alabama had fought them to a one-possession game 3.5 quarters. How many teams do that in the SEC against Alabama? Now Miami, who is ranked in the top 10 in the nation, is a team who, under Mark Richt, looked really good, and then they floundered toward the end of the season. Could have made the college football playoff, could have made the ACC title game, but they fell and they fell and they fell and they fell. And now under Mario Cristobal, they're getting national respect again. But is it premature? Does Miami go into South Florida and lose? And does South Florida continue to create a case for themselves? Or does Miami win this game? Alex Golesh is building something in South Florida. I want to be clear about that. And he's building something so awesome with his staff that they're finally going to have an on-campus stadium. They're not going to share Raymond James Stadium, which has been beautiful with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for years. They're going to get their own stadium in 2025 on campus at South Florida.
My question to you, PJ, this game is on ESPN. It's at 7 o'clock at night, and I can't wait to watch it. Does Miami continue to show the world, hey, we're pretty good? Or does South Florida say, hey, you better you better rank us in the top 25 after this week?
For sure. The pundits got this game as a 16-point favorite for Miami. Don't get caught up in that stuff. This is a very good South Florida team. And, of course, I watched Miami pitifully pound the Gators the first week. They could have done anything they wanted to. They ran well. They passed well. They did. The defensive line was well. The secondary was. Although I think they're going to get caught short here, Dan. This is a game that I watched. I wanted to see. I got to see this game. I got to see that South Florida's that good, and I think they are.
PJ going with the South Florida Bulls in this game, and I will also be going with South Florida. Listen, if you can play Alabama, and I know Nick Saban's not there, but Kalen DeBoer had an undefeated Washington team all the way up and into the college football playoff last year. If you think that South Florida is not for real, I hope you watch the game. If you think South Florida is for real, I hope you watch the game. And what I appreciate about Alex Golesh above everything else is, as busy as that man is, right before game day last week, we were texting back and forth. I got a lot of respect for Alex Golesh. Dude is building something. And South Florida ain't nobody's easy cupcake game. I think Miami and Florida and Alabama are like, we agreed to play these games, but maybe we don't agree to play them in the future. South Florida's for real. And when they get into the American Athletic Conference, I think they might wreak some havoc. But they're not waiting until then to wreak havoc. I'm going with South Florida. Our final game, PJ, takes a coach who I got to know when he was in Florida. He was at UCF for 2 seasons, Josh Heupel. And Josh Heupel left with Danny White to go over to Tennessee. The Tennessee Volunteers in recent history, I thought, were the number 1 team in the nation. And then they started to struggle. I thought they could have made the college football playoff for the first time ever, but they struggled. Now they're ranked back in the top 6 in the nation. They're going on the road to play Oklahoma. And guess what? When you first look at this game, you go, ooh, SEC Big 12, good stuff. Nah, folks. This is SEC. This is Oklahoma's debut in the SEC. This is Oklahoma, you're 3-0, but you played 3 unranked teams. You played Temple at home. You played Houston at home. You played Tulane at home. Now you have to play Tennessee at home. The debut of Oklahoma in the SEC. Do they win? Is it sooner rather than later that Oklahoma makes a positive entrance into the SEC? Or do the Tennessee Volunteers come ready to work and ready to remind Oklahoma, oh, you might be in our conference, but you ain't ready for this?
Yeah, you're right. You got to earn your stripes in the SEC. I think 6 out of the first 7 teams, or 7 out of the first 8 teams ranked are SEC teams. Tennessee looks like they're a real juggernaut this year. Heupel is an extraordinary guy, and he's a wonderful offensive coordinator, and I really like him. I really like Tennessee in this game.
Yeah. Listen, you might think what you want to think about Josh Heupel, but I'm going to bring back an oldie but goodie pickup line that I've never used. You might think that Oklahoma's going to win, but there's only one 10 I see, and that's the Volunteers. I'm going with the Tennessee Volunteers to win the game on the road. And to say to Oklahoma, welcome to the SEC. You better stand in line, because you can't go to the top of the heap when some of us here are fighting to get there too. And we know what it's like to play in this conference every single season. I'm not downplaying Oklahoma, and I most certainly am not downplaying who I think is arguably the best team in the nation right now, which is Texas. What I am telling you is this is the SEC, and they don't just let you walk in and eat at their table.
you're going to have to fight for scraps before they let you sit down. And I think Tennessee is going to have a good game. I think this is going to be a great game. And I can't wait to watch it. But I'm taking Tennessee. For the NFL, PJ and I are going to run through this quickly here. The NFL, this is how it went down last week. Taking a look at the picks that we had. So you got the picks up on the screen, and happy to give these to you for NFL Week 2. So this is how it shook out. NFL Week 2, the Bills demolished Miami on the road by my favorite number, 21, and that's because Tua was out of the game. And for his own health and safety and well-being, he might have to be out of the game for good. God bless to him above everything else. He is a man of God. I support him. I appreciate him. And I do not want to see this man having a troubled life. So, Tua, do what's best for you and your family. Next game, Dallas got blown out by New Orleans. The question that PJ and I and everybody else had to look at was, New Orleans blew out a team in Week 1. Dallas blew out a team in Week 1. Which team's for real? Well, New Orleans has scored 91 points in their first 2 weeks, and Dallas has proven that they should play anywhere in the country except for in their home stadium. Last year, they lost to Green Bay. In the last game that they played at home, they got annihilated by Green Bay in the playoffs as a higher seed than Green Bay. They haven't played a game there since until they welcomed in the Saints. And the Saints came marching in and blew the doors off AT&T Stadium. So Dallas, you might want to just maybe play some more road games. Do the opposite of Michigan and Ohio State. So we got that one wrong. Next game up, Tampa Bay goes into Detroit in a rematch of the postseason. And Detroit lost to Tampa. And Tampa's for real with Baker Mayfield and the crew. We got that one wrong. Green Bay takes down Indianapolis. We didn't think this was going to happen either. Like we said, there's no sure thing. This is how I look at it. There's no sure thing in sports. There's no sure thing in life. Indianapolis goes into Green Bay, and Malik Willis is their quarterback. They don't have Jordan Love, so you think, they're going to be able to take care of this game. This will be a good fantasy game. It'll be a good reality game. But in reality, Indiana was living in a fantasy world when they went in there and faced off against Green Bay, who found out a way to not only beat them, but to gut out a game 16-10. The Jets took down Tennessee. This is the first game that PJ and I disagreed on, and I got this one right. Aaron Rodgers went into the game having never been 0-2 to start a season, and he continues at the ripe age of 40 of never being 0-2 to start a season. The Jets went on the road over Tennessee, who I don't believe is for real this season. We shall see. San Francisco loses to Minnesota on the road. PJ and I both had San Francisco. Sam Darnold looking like he could be resurrecting his career. Seattle wins in overtime over New England. And this was an interesting game here. Seattle 23-20. PJ went with Seattle. I went with New England. I'm looking at this asking myself why I did that, but I did. And then the Washington Commanders beat the Giants in a game where the best player on either side was Washington Commanders kicker, Austin Seibert, who just took over the game, and they relied on his leg, and he got it done. The Chargers blew out Carolina, and now Bryce Young is not the starting quarterback. Number 1 overall pick last year is now not the starting quarterback in week 3 of his sophomore season. God bless to him, and I hope that him and Carolina figure it out. We picked the Chargers. We got that right. The Jacksonville Jaguars, wow, they found a way to lose a not great game to Cleveland, and there's not many safeties you see in an NFL season. Jacksonville was on the wrong side of one in an 18-13 loss to the visiting Cleveland Browns, who struggled to get anything done offensively in Week 1 or Week 2. It just so happens that in Week 2, they played a team that couldn't get anything done offensively, more so than them. The Raiders went into Baltimore and took down the Raiders. How many people saw that happening? Not us. We got that game wrong. The Rams got blown out by Arizona 41-10. What an awful game. And I'm sitting here looking at, what is the future going to look like for Sean McVay? He's without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua right now. And then we look to Pittsburgh, who took down Denver in an ugly game, 13-6. We got that one incorrect. Kansas City, some people don't think it was pass interference. I think he actually did get there on time, 26-25. But here's the crazy thing. Cincinnati
And so we got that one right with Kansas City. In week 1, the officiating crew went back and looked at the Cincinnati game, decided that they made the wrong call. Mike Gesicki should have had a touchdown. And instead of being down 10-0 in the first half, it should have been 7-7. The sad thing about the officials saying that they were wrong, it doesn't change the outcome of the game. So Cincinnati, in 2 games in the first 2 weeks of the season, the only games they've had have been controversial on officiating calls. And neither one of them went in their direction. Interesting. Kansas City wins the game. We got it right. Houston takes down Chicago in a game where Caleb Williams apparently didn't want to sit there and listen to what C.J. Stroud had to say. And Philadelphia loses at home to Kirk Cousins. I told you he was above the equator line, but I didn't pick him in this game, and I paid for it. PJ had 6 wins this week, meaning that PJ went 6-10. I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as well. PJ and I had an awful week. Before we get into picks for our week 3 here, and apologize for it saying week 1 here, is actually supposed to say week 2 picks, so let me go ahead and change that here on your screen. PJ, we went 6-10. What do you think?
I just got a comment on Jacksonville. I mean, I saw a team that was lost. I don't know who the hell's calling plays anymore. Press Taylor or Coach Pedersen. I don't see that camaraderie. Trevor Lawrence went on TV down here, and he said we sucked, and that I guess that sums it up. But again, you win in this league with an offensive line and a defensive line. You can't do either or unless those two are in place. Our offensive line sucked. The defensive line was even worse. Now they're asking, I think, Adam Goitis maybe to come back before the game starts this week. Maybe like to see him plug in there and see if he can get something done. This is a team that I thought, I can't say it anymore, I thought they had Super Bowl potential. Not anymore. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, maybe he's not the kind of player that we thought he was coming out of college. I hate to say that. But it's very, if they don't win this week, it's very evident that something's going on with Coach Pedersen and his staff.
Yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I mean, I would say that their decisions on the field are bad, but I think their decisions are worse in the front office. And, I mean, they're not who I thought they were behind the scenes, and they're not who I thought they were in front of the scenes right now. And it's sad to see it. There's some tremendous players on this team. The guys work very, very hard. They worked way too hard to be where they are right now, and they don't deserve it. They don't deserve this. And for Trevor Lawrence, who I consider a leader and have always considered a leader, and considered him a leader when I got to sit in the room when I was allowed to do something that I earned the right to do, when I sat there in the front row with nobody else and asked Trevor Lawrence questions, I saw a leader. And he stood at the same podium that I got to see him stand at back when there was people making better decisions in Jacksonville that actually cared about people that do their job with credibility. And when I sat there and I talked with Trevor, and I was around Trevor, I saw a different type of human being and a different type of leader. How many quarterbacks in the NFL are going to stand at a podium and tell you that their team sucks? How many guys are willing to stand there and say that, knowing that they have to go to locker room with those guys, they have to go to practice with those guys, they have to be around those guys, and he called out the entire team, he called out himself. Trevor Lawrence has blamed himself multiple times, and he basically said, we're too good to be this bad, and I agree with that. And I would love to cover the team closely and investigate why that's happening, but not all of us that do things the right way with God and morals and values are given the opportunity to do things. We don't live in a fair world. And I don't think it's fair that Jacksonville's where they are right now, and I don't think it's fair that I can't tell that story the way I want to. But you can be sure that God opens doors if you do things the right way. I'm not done with what I'm doing, and I would like to hope that Jacksonville is not done with this season.
New England at the Jets. Thursday Night Football, PJ. What do you got?
Well, I gotta like the way Aaron Rodgers is doing this. He looked strong last week. Didn't pass for a lot of yards. Had command of the team. The team loves him. The team looks at him. The team sees what he's about. He's traveled this road many, many, many times, and I look for him to keep going. He's got a good chance if his defense can hold in there. I think he's got a good chance to go forward here. I like him in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the New York Jets in this game as well. The Jets, to me, I was a good friend. I'm good friends with many years, over a decade, of Nate Hackett, their offensive coordinator. We've known each other when he's been in Syracuse, Buffalo, Green Bay, Jacksonville, Denver, and with the Jets. And he's one of those people that stays true to his word. He said we needed a game under our belt. He wasn't worried about that first game. The team, think about what the Jets have had to do. The Jets have started off the season on the West Coast against a Super Bowl caliber team on primetime. Then they played the Titans on the road, and now they're playing their first home game of the season, and it's on primetime. They are getting challenged, and the critical eye is on them at all times. If they don't already know that they're in the New York City vicinity, they definitely know it by the games that they're playing. And I'm going to go with the New York Jets. If you want to count out Aaron Rodgers, go ahead. I think he'll make you pay for that, and I think he does in this one. The New York Giants at the Cleveland Browns. PJ, this is an interesting game. The New York Giants lost a game last week in Week 2 by scoring 18 points. The Cleveland Browns won a game last week in Week 2 by scoring 18 points. Which one of these 18-point teams is going to win this week?
I hate to say it, but Deshaun Watson looks like he's coming around here as a quarterback again. I know he's had some tough choices, his own personal choices, certainly. And I'm sure there's a lot of women out there that hate to see him. But I think he's a far better player than we're giving him credit for, including me. I like Cleveland in this game.
Yeah, I truly believe my prediction that Tommy DeVito is going to start at least one game this season is getting closer and closer, and him and Drew Lock could be chomping at the bit. One of them could come in. Drew Lock could come into this game. I think Daniel Jones' time as the quarterback of the New York Giants, and I don't wish anything bad on him. I covered him at college. I love talking with him and with David Cutcliffe at Duke, who was coaching him at the time, who's a quarterback guru. I don't see them going past this week with Daniel Jones if they don't win. And I don't see them winning. So I'm going with the Cleveland Browns, and I think Tommy DeVito is going to be out there sooner than later. Green Bay at Tennessee. Tennessee's home again. They just lost to the Jets. I'm not a believer in Tennessee. PJ, are you?
Yes, because I think Jordan Love is going to play for Green Bay, but I still think he's hurt. I think that's a bad move on their part. Maybe they don't have another quarterback that they trust. Although the guy last week did a good job. I think Will Levis is starting to come into his own. I know he's got the coach behind him. He's got a good staff. He's got a good running game. I like Tennessee.
Well, here's the interesting thing about this. Jordan Love is obviously the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. But the other side, he's back at practice and he's hopeful to return. But here's the interesting thing, PJ. If Malik Willis was to play, this is Malik Willis's game against the team that drafted him. His first time seeing Tennessee being on the other side. So if Malik Willis gets to play, this is a game of revenge. I would say revenge, maybe. So will he get to showcase himself against a Tennessee team that let him go? Or is it going to be Jordan Love? I think you put Malik Willis out there first and see how well he does against his old team. Because Will Levis was fighting for the starting job with Malik Willis. Will got it. Malik was sent packing. I think if Jordan Love's not 100%, you put out Malik and you see what he can do. If Jordan Love is 100%, well, then see what Jordan Love can do. But I think you start with Malik Willis and you activate Jordan Love and you see how the first half goes. So, PJ, you're going with who? Who are you going with?
Tennessee.
So, Tennessee. PJ's going to go with Tennessee. I am also going to take Tennessee. I want to see Malik Willis get to play his old team, though, at least for a little while. Chicago at Indianapolis. This is a rematch for those of you that remember. My graduation year, 2006-2007 at Marywood University, my graduation year featured a Super Bowl between the Chicago Bears and the Indianapolis Colts. Rex Grossman and Peyton Manning. It was Peyton Manning's first Super Bowl victory. In a rematch of that, where it's Caleb Williams, who's in his rookie season, and Anthony Richardson, who's kind of in his rookie season because he got hurt last year so early on, who do you have in this one?
Go Gators. I think that Anthony's going to show his colors this week, run through all over the place.
Yeah, I got to go with the Indianapolis Colts. They had a terrible game against Green Bay on the road, and I think that they can redeem themselves at home. Michael Pittman got to find a way to figure out what's going on there with the guy that's supposed to be number one. Alec Pierce is doing a great job, though. Credit to him for that. Next game we have is Houston at Minnesota. Houston has started off being the real deal. They're 2-0. Minnesota, they just beat San Francisco at home in Minnesota, and they're 2-0. Does Minnesota spoil another playoff caliber team and tell the nation, look out for us and Sam Darnold?
No, I don't think so. I think that Chris Stroud, he made it believable last year, and I rode his coattails to the very end. He's an extraordinary player. Looks like he's picking up just where he left off last year. He's an extremely talented young man, and Houston has an outside shot, I think, of getting the whole deal. Maybe not this year, but next year. But I like Houston.
Yeah, I like Houston. I think they've been a problem to so many teams out there. I like them to gut this out. This could be 19-13, and in those close games, they've shown early on that they can win it, and I think that they got a shot to be a threat to Kansas City this year down the stretch if they take care of business. Philadelphia at New Orleans. New Orleans just blew out an NFC East team when they went to Dallas. Now New Orleans is back at home. They've scored 91 points in 2 weeks, and Philadelphia is coming off of a Monday Night Football loss where they apparently forgot that at the end of the game you still have to guard receivers. What do you have?
Big disappointment in Philadelphia this last week. I saw that the body language didn't look good for these guys. They're throwing too much on Jalen Hurts, and frankly, he can't handle it sometimes. But New Orleans is playing fast, loose, and easy, and man, they can fly. I like New Orleans.
Yeah, I like New Orleans in this game. Derek Carr, good quarterback. Why did the Raiders get rid of him? I don't know. I didn't agree with the move. I still don't agree with it. And New Orleans is wreaking havoc. So kudos to them for the work that they're doing. I think it continues. Los Angeles Chargers at the Pittsburgh Steelers. What do you got?
Oh, the Chargers look like they're hitting at all cylinders. Love the way their offense is playing. Pittsburgh, they're undefeated. They still have Justin Fields at quarterback. I mean, he's not doing much. They're not scoring a lot of points. I don't know if that's going to continue, but they're going to get into. If they get into a pissing contest this with the Chargers, they're going to lose. I like the Chargers.
Yeah, I like the Chargers. I just think they could score more points. Jim Harbaugh is having a nice entrance, re-entrance to the NFL. I got the Chargers winning on the road. I told you Justin Fields was going to be the quarterback, and he has been. So I'm going with the Chargers, and I think it's going to be a good game. Denver at Tampa Bay. Does Bo Nix get his first win as a rookie, or does Tampa continue to show how real they are?
Bo's going to have a tough time here. Baker Mayfield is in total charge of this team. He's made a lot of people look bad over the years, and this is going to continue here. Baker, as he gotten older, has really turned into a mature player. He's got two of the best wide receivers in football and have been for 5 years. And Godwin and Mike Williams, they can't be beat.
Yeah, PJ talking about Godwin and Mike Evans on the team here. Tampa, I'm going with Tampa as well. Tampa, interestingly here, folks, in the first 3 weeks of the season, will play two rookie quarterbacks. They started off at home against Jaden Daniels, and now they're going to be playing at home against Bo Nix, and in between that, went on the road against former number 1 overall pick Jared Goff in Detroit. So I got Tampa winning this game. Carolina at Vegas. Carolina is handing the quarterback duties to Andy Dalton, who is in the league, and I think he's a talented guy. I'm happy to see him back at quarterback. The Carolina Panthers are willing to see anybody at quarterback, including you or me, PJ, at this point. Carolina is playing Raiders. Do they win, or do the Raiders say, oh my goodness, we'll be done at halftime?
The Boomers Raiders are going to take this game.
Yeah, I got the Raiders in this one, too. The Raiders just beat the Baltimore Ravens on the road. I can't see the Vegas Raiders finding any issue. Now, I think Andy Dalton's going to be better. I was never sold on Bryce Young. I said he was going to be the number one pick because that's how it looked like it was going, but I wouldn't have picked him number one if I were Carolina. And let's see what happens from here, but I got the Vegas Raiders winning this game. Gardner Minshew, he's having fun out there. And PJ and I said Gardner Minshew was for real, did we not? And y'all just saw them go on the road and beat the Ravens. So let that just kind of sit for a minute and hang in the air. Miami at Seattle, PJ. Miami is going with Skylar Thompson. There's other guys to pick up out there, but they're going to go with Skylar Thompson. They have Tyler Huntley, who is a running quarterback who backed up Lamar Jackson in that offense for a while and almost helped the Baltimore Ravens beat Miami in the postseason. Now, Tyler Huntley's playing for Miami. So we're going to maybe see him. I think we're going to see Skylar Thompson. And they're going on the road to play the 12th man in Seattle. Who wins?
Geno Smith has proved me wrong on many occasions. I just didn't think he was a reclamation project. I know that. But he seemed to wake up when he was in Seattle. And he's beat me every time. I'm going to pick him this time. I'm not going to lose to him this time.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't pick Seattle last week. I don't know what happened to me in that moment, but I'm definitely not making the same mistake 2 weeks in a row. I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks to win this game. And again, prayers to Tua and to his family. Baltimore at Dallas. Baltimore is coming off of a loss at home to the Raiders, like I said, a close game that a lot of people didn't see them losing, you and I included. Dallas just got blown out at home. So I wouldn't want to see Baltimore, if I'm Dallas, coming off of their loss and seeing how I played at home. Who wins Baltimore at Dallas?
Well, everyone likes to look at Jerry Jones and look at the scowl he's got out of space because his team is losing. I think maybe he's going to smile this week. I think Dallas can actually pull this out. Dak Prescott has to look real good. I mean, he's got the White House to do it. So he's got a big contract, so it didn't work last week, but I think it'll work this week.
PJ, I got to go with the Baltimore Ravens. I think that this team is pissed off. I think that they understand, like, they're 0-2. They can't be 0-3. I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens. Dallas Cowboys have shown to be pretenders in recent history. They have not started off the season. That game against New Orleans was not good. Granted, they are 1-1, but that game was not good. I think Baltimore takes care of business. San Francisco at the Los Angeles Rams. San Fran is without Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. The Rams are without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. In this injury-laden Week 3, who wins in California?
This will be a good game. Frankly, it's probably a pick-em game, but I like San Francisco. I think Purdy keeps things together, moves the ball down the field, scores when he has to. I like San Francisco.
I got to go with San Francisco in this game as well. The Rams don't have any household name out there at receiver right now, and it's going to be a wide open race. They might lean on Kyron Williams. Maybe Blake Corum gets involved, who played at Michigan under Jim Harbaugh. We'll see. I'm going with San Francisco. I think they're going to get this victory. Detroit at Arizona. Is Arizona for real after putting it on the Rams 41-10, or are they pretenders? Detroit just lost a game to Tampa. Arizona has the talent on paper to score, but we haven't seen them be consistently doing that with Kyler Murray. So which one of these teams is going to make it out, Detroit or Arizona, in Arizona?
Well, I've been on Kyler Murray's ass for a couple of years. I just don't think he's going to be a top-flight quarterback. He's just too small, and you look at Bryce Young, and it's the same kind of deal, same kind of thing. Except Kyler Murray's a better athlete, but I'm not going to get fooled by him this week. Detroit is the better team, no question, on paper. But they're playing at home. Kyler Murray, for some reason, has got his stuff get together. So I'm going to ride you, Kyler. So this is probably the only time I'm ever going to pick you. But I'm going to pick you this week.
PJ did it to me again. You kind of leaned Detroit, then you leaned Arizona. You go back and forth. I was writing Detroit. He's picking Arizona. PJ going with Arizona at home. I'm going with Detroit on the road. I think Dan Campbell, listen, he's got to come back in a game like this and make it interesting. Detroit might have to score a lot of points. I can absolutely see Arizona winning this game because they seem to win games that you're like, really? And I mean, they can put it on teams. They've done it before with Kyler, but I think Detroit's going to win this one on the road. If they don't, I'm definitely looking at Arizona and saying to myself, okay, y'all been taking care of business. Let's see how you guys do, because I think that division could be wide open depending on how San Francisco does. Our Sunday Night Football, PJ, is Kansas City at Atlanta. Atlanta just played on Monday Night Football on the road. Now they're playing Sunday Night Football at home. Kansas City got a victory with a controversial call at the end of the game, or else the game would have been over. So what do you have for Pat Mahomes going to visit Kirk Cousins, a quarterback I told you all was better than the equator line of the NFL? I think he proved that on Monday Night Football in the clinic that he put on with his receivers. What do you have, Kansas City at Atlanta?
Kirk Cousins certainly has brought a lot to this team, Atlanta. He's got a good team. He's capable of throwing for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns any week. But you're playing Kansas City. I know you're playing at home, but you also have the best kicker in the history of college, of high NFL. This kid is gold. Harrison Butler is gold. So even if it comes down to that, he's liable to kick indoors. He's liable to kick a 70-yard field goal. That's how good he is. I like Kansas City.
Yeah, I think for me, PJ, I want to pick Atlanta. Atlanta's shown what they can do down the stretch. But we got Young Hui Koo on one side for Atlanta, who's tremendous. And you got Harrison, get your hands off my Butker, who's killing it out there too. So it would be easy to pick Kansas City. But Lord knows that it ain't always easy, and sometimes you got to take the tougher road. Give me Hotlanta in Atlanta to give Kansas City their first loss of the season. A game that we might come back and talk about. Hey, you got to be brave, you got to be bold. I think Atlanta can do it, and they're at home. Jackson, there's two Monday Night Football games. One is at 7:30, one's at 8:15. So you can decide which one you want to watch, because they're on ESPN for Jacksonville at Buffalo and ABC for Washington at Cincinnati. P to the Jizzle, J. Edgar Twizzle. Does Jacksonville beat Buffalo, or does Buffalo look at Jacksonville and go, ew? And then as far as Washington goes, does Joe Burrow continue to be on the right side of things after not having a great week 1 but having a good week 2? Jaden Daniels, he's a rookie. He's in his 3rd ever game in the NFL, but his numbers have looked pretty good. So who wins these games? Jacksonville at Buffalo, Washington at Cincinnati.
It's the Josh and Joe show. That's all, Daniel. The Josh and Joe show.
PJ making it very simple here, going with Buffalo to win their game over Jacksonville at home, and going with Cincinnati to win their game at home over the Washington Commanders. I'm also taking the Bills at home on Monday night over the Jaguars, and I'm going to give Cincinnati the edge here in the victory. But Jaden, I am watching you, and I did pick you to have the best season of all 2024 quarterback rookies in the NFL. With that being said, that's what it looks like. P to the Jizzle, thank you as always for everything you do. You thought PJ wasn't going to get 2 hours because we had him come in hour number 2. Well, you were savagely wrong. We give PJ the time that he deserves, and he's still got 2 hours. PJ, I love you to pieces, and I'll talk with you soon.
All right, see you later. Bye-bye.
Take care. Papa Joe there giving us his picks, and I'm giving you my picks, and we're going to take a step aside for a fast break here where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We'll wrap up the show right after this.
And as always, I can't thank you enough for hanging out with us around the country and the world. PJ and I did not have a good week 2 in the NFL. His overall record in college football is, well, let's take a look at this. So in 3 weeks, including week 0, well, no, we didn't do week 0. So in 3 weeks of college football, PJ's overall record is 19-14. Mine is 21-12, which is my favorite number, forward and backward. In the NFL, in the first 2 weeks, PJ is 16-16, and I am 17-15. We'll see how it all shakes out after this week. Games start tonight for college and pro. We'll be back after this.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. They are open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5. And you will find them tonight. And every single month they do trade night. Tonight they're going to be at the store. Sometimes we're at the Wildcat Sports Pub, and that partnership amongst GG Cards and Breaks, the Wildcat, and I'm blessed to work with both of these wonderful, wonderful places. The Wildcat Sports Pub of 8 years and counting, and GG Cards and Breaks, we're in year 2 with each other here. So 2 fantastic partners. They're side by side on your screen right now. Can't thank them both enough for the work that they do. We'll be at GG Cards and Breaks tonight at the store, 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. They're open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then they're open from 6:30 to 9:30 for trade night. I'm going to be there early. Now, in the last 3 or 4 trade nights, I've had to come late because I double booked. I had different events going on. I had different things that I had to do. This week, I was like, no, I'm not doing any of that. I'm getting there early. I got a bunch of new cards in. I got a ton of great stuff for y'all to see. I have graded cards. I have numbered cards. I have autographs of Bo Nix, J.G. McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr., I need to get there early because I want you to see the stuff. And I'm really excited to buy, sell, and trade with people of all ages at GG Cards and Breaks. It's so much fun. It's so great. You come, you set up. You can come and look around at everybody's stuff and bring some of your stuff. You can come set up and look at everybody's stuff. And so you can either set things up, or you can bring some of your collection and not set up and just kind of walk around, or you can be there for the first time ever, right? Never have collected cards before and look around. You could buy things from GG Cards and Breaks, from the store itself, in their cases, as well as their boxes and their packs, and you can buy, sell, and trade with each other. It's an awesome, awesome time in the community. People of all ages show up. I can't wait to do it tonight, so I look forward to seeing you out there Thursday tonight, September 19th, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m., and I love the fact that y'all have gone into GG Cards and Breaks from what we've said here on the show, as well as what other people have said through the community. Thank you so much for supporting local and tremendous people. Thank you to Josh. Thank you to Anthony for the opportunity. And, of course, thank you to the entire team at GG Cards and Breaks, Joel and Alex and everybody out there. Appreciate you so very much. 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. Head out there Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6 and Sundays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Make sure you go there tonight for our monthly trade night, which is 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. at GG Cards and Breaks tonight, September 19th, starting at 6:30. With that being said, I want to thank my incredible guests on today's show. We had a wonderful time, and I can't thank you all enough for how much fun I had on today's show. I got to share a game week unlike anything we've ever done before, having an East Coast, West Coast game week here. Stanford's making history, playing their first ever game as a member of the ACC. They're doing it at Syracuse. Fran's calling it the Battle of the Block S, a red S and an orange S. I like where his head's at. I'm excited for this. You have heard today in my one-on-one extensive conversation with quarterback of the Stanford Cardinal, the starting quarterback, Ashton Daniels. I want to thank Stanford for giving me the opportunity to speak with him one-on-one, and I also want to thank Stanford for the opportunity to be on their Zoom call and get to talk with head coach Troy Taylor again, quarterback Justin Lamson again, as I covered him when he was here at Syracuse and covered him through his recruitment when he decided to come to Syracuse before he went to Stanford. And a big time thanks to safety Mitch Leigber, who I got to speak with for the first time. And of course, as always, the better half of every Thursday, Papa Joe. So much love to PJ, talking about Major League Baseball with less than 15 games to go in the regular season. Some teams have 10 games to go, like Arizona. And that quest starts tonight. And of course, recapping college football week 3, making our picks for college football week 4, recapping NFL week 2, and making our picks for week 3. Of course, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Under promise, over deliver. Yesterday, we went until about 1 o'clock. Today, we're past noon. So we're happy to be here with you and spend extra time with you on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com, all around the world. Of course, we're also all around the world on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. You can also ask Alexa or your Google Home device to play the latest episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and they will do that for you as well. So make sure you check us out. You can also find us on any one of these on CarPlay and listen to us through your radio in your car, like we're right there locally, wherever you're at, anywhere in the world. By the grace of God, God will open doors that no man can close. Big time thanks to our incredible Brooklyn Pickle down in Southern Pines. I want to thank them on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina, right down the road from the Pinehurst Golf Courses. I also want to give a big time thanks to all of our partners here in Central and Upstate New York. Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Camp Dog Daycare Avicoli's, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Brian's Landing, Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Great Lakes Honda City, Pizza Man, Servomation, reimagining and reinventing what it looks like technologically and for variety and quality of product. Everything totally different than what I ever expected of vending. Find out more at servomation.com, and they are serving the Northeast in so many places, including at colleges and universities and at businesses. I love what they do. They're at Turning Stone now. They're in UMass. They're at Binghamton. Got to check out Servomation. And, of course, Mother's Cupboard, the home of my sandwich, the Cuse McMother, and you better be getting one on game day tomorrow. And to all my Stanford people saying, where do I go, Dan? Where do I eat? I only know the things that people tell me, and it's the same places. Well, you should be going to Mother's Cupboard, 3709 James Street in Syracuse, New York, and getting the Cuse McMother. Even if you're a Stanford fan, you can't turn down bacon, egg, and cheese inside of 2 pieces of French toast. Cut it up and have it with syrup, pick it up and eat it like a sandwich. Open 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Get your butt over there and get some Cuse McMother in your life. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single month with Lemoyne College. You will find your Dolphins here with us Wednesdays during Dolphin Time, and that is every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time worldwide. Find the Dolphins hanging out here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and you can find all of our content with the Dolphins over 3+ years by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, find the Lemoyne playlist. You'll also find the Dolphins by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to lemoynedolphins.com. Fins up, baby. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. The Bobcats of Syracuse have 2 locations, and they're very easy to get to. James Street, right up the road from downtown Syracuse, and right off of Route 57 in Liverpool, across the street from Avicoli's. The Bobcats are bringing you great opportunities in the classroom and great opportunities on the fields and courts and in the gaming world. They are men's and women's soccer national champions. They are men's and women's basketball national tournament competitors. Their baseball program is heading into year 3 as we grow that under Sean Peake. And the esports is growing under Connor Carroll. Make sure that you find all of our Bobcat Buzz Spotlight specials. You won't find the Bobcats anywhere else, and you won't find them like this by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, find the BSC Syracuse playlist. You also find the Bobcats on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com, and thank you to everybody who's been around the Bobcats, showing them love over the years. They are a secret that I don't want to be kept anymore. Go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You will find your Bearcats of Binghamton every single week. Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, you will find them in Bearcat Time weekly, featuring our specials, Moments with Marshall throughout the year with Gene Marshall, the Binghamton University Athletics Director, as well as student athletes, coaches, and administration joining me for what we call the Bearcat Break Room. We have great stories being told with the Bearcats every single week, under promise and over deliver. We just made history having my first conversation in over 20 years of being a broadcaster with a team on a bus on game day going live with me on video, speaking with Luke Yates as well as Carlo Cavalar and head coach Paul Marco of the Binghamton University men's soccer team on the way to a game at St. Peter's that they won in New Jersey, in Jersey City. They're now 5-2-1 on the season. God bless. And I had a great time talking with them, a great time talking with everybody we've talked to at Binghamton. You can find all of our content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Binghamton playlist. You can also find the Bearcats by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to bubearcats.com and go Bearcats. Once again, big time thanks to Ashton Daniels, to Troy Taylor, to Justin Lamson, to Mitch Leigber, to Stanford for giving me those opportunities, and a big time thanks to Papa Joe. Find us on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, X at CallDT, Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT, and come out to GG Cards and Breaks tonight to buy, sell, and trade with the community, all different ages. Ton of fun. I love it, and I can't wait. I have been maybe arguably more excited for this than I've been for any GG Cards and Breaks trade night because I have some really awesome products that I've never had anything like this before. I can't wait to bring them out to you at 639 Delmar Place tonight in Syracuse, September 19th, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. I will see you at GG Cards and Breaks for trade night. In the meantime, God bless. No stress. Do your best.